back to another live stream here on my channel. Today, the big question is, are VeVe NFTs real NFTs? And what might be the point of discussion here? Is Omi going to zero? Is VeVe still building? And all these questions that you guys had in mind, we are going to talk about that with our guest very, very soon, right after this intro. Hello, Kay, if I may say so.
Hello,
and
Mr.
hello,
Hodler.
everyone in the chat. It's the patient fodder coming at you. The patient hodler coming at you with another live stream. And yeah, as you can see here, I invited Hello Kay, surprised cat, known from YouTube and Twitter, to this channel to discuss this with all of you guys and with the community. How are you doing, Kay?
I am good. I just came back from a run. I got a new juicer, so I made some orange, carrot, and ginger juice. It's got too much ginger in it, but ginger is good for you. So
that must have been because you tried to make it on time. So you were running to make it on time to the stream, and now you had to. You couldn't do the right mix because of that.
it was actually because the juicer was brand new and it hadn't locked correctly. So I was like, oh, did I get scammed? This juicer doesn't work properly. And then I didn't realize I had to like lock it 2 times. Like it's like for the chute for the like pulp. And so all the pulp was building up and I was like, why is this juicer not working? And then I realized, oh, okay, I need to turn it again. And then so I was basically halfway through juicing when we were supposed to start.
Yeah, so you almost got rubbed by the juice. Someone is asking if your bird is also on the stream today, the Darth Vader bird.
Oh yeah, May the 4th. So I've got well, it's not May the 4th. Oh yeah, it's May the 4th today. Yeah, I've got Darth Bird up here. Like you can see Darth Bird.
Darth Bird is up there, Alarma, so that you can see it. Yeah, let's jump maybe right at the point. And with the first question, are you paid by Quidd to FUD VeVe?
I mean, that rumor started because there are some pretty insecure people, but no. The short answer is no. Actually, the longer answer is I haven't been paid by Quidd at all this year. Anything I've spoken about Quidd is purely out of my own choice. They haven't paid me a single penny this year. Last year, and it was very, very obvious which times they did pay me because I literally spammed sponsored everywhere when it was something that was sponsored. So it was 2 times. One time was Dark Crystal, which was to do with Jim Henson. And I think anyone who knows me from VeVe knows I like Jim Henson stuff because Jim Henson is where you have, Ludo, that big Chewbacca looking thing. Yeah. I would always take pictures of that because I grew up with Jim Henson stuff because I'm from the 90s, like 90s as in 1990s, so like nearly 80s, but 90s, yeah. The other thing they sponsored me for was Identity. So Identity, the artist for that, like I know him. We've spoken many times now. He lives in LA. He came to DCOT as well. So I think he's a genuine cool guy. So I was happy to kind of work and promote his art on Quidd. And that, to be honest, wasn't even like a Quidd thing for me. That was more of a him thing. Like I would have helped promote his artwork regardless of platform. Like I just didn't care because I just like I like helping people who I find are like cool, ambitious, they're nice people. Those are the type of people I like helping. And so I was like happy to do that. Even if he had done it on VeVe, I would have still promoted it. Like, it doesn't matter to me. So yeah, I did 2 contracts because I think a lot of people who say this kind of stuff, they have no idea how this industry even works or how contracting even works, right? So I don't like, I'm not loyal to a brand, firstly. And I take these jobs as contracts. So it's a one-time job. I do something defined in a contract, I get paid, and then that's it. I don't have to ever speak about them or positively, negatively, or whatever again. It's just that one-off transaction. So I've done 2 contracts, Jim Henson and Identity, and that after that, those were both last year as well. Since then, anything I speak about of a platform is just purely because I think I think it's cool. And yeah, like VeVe's never paid me a penny, and I've done 2 years worth of content for them, as like other platforms as well. But
Yeah,
if
me
it,
neither. I don't know if there are
it would be very
any
obvious.
paid YouTubers or however content creators by VeVe besides the ones that they made early contracts with, like Cryptosaurus and maybe Andre Jig and so. But from the ones, I don't know if there are any paid ones. At least you haven't received any money from VeVe. I didn't.
No,
I
I
also
wish.
didn't from Quidd, so I
Yeah.
rejected the first approach from Quidd
I
right
mean, to be
away.
honest, if
I
VeVe
think
wanted
I've never
to,
done. Sorry.
I was gonna say, if VeVe wanted to do sponsor stuff with me, like I was always more than open to that kind of thing. They just didn't really seem to do that kind of thing. I think because maybe partly they wanted to work with much larger channels, but also I guess we did it for free anyway. So for them, it's like, why pay us when we're doing it for free? So yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, I only know of Cryptos R Us, who was 100% being paid by them to promote it.
Yeah.
And his channel has like, was it 300, 400,000 subscribers, something like that? Can't remember, but
Yeah,
he's a
I
big,
think
he's a way bigger
already
channel
past
than any of us.
500,000 right now, but at the time he had like under 500,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the time maybe he had like 400,000 subscribers. So, you know, like paying someone like that who has such a big following, that makes sense. Paying us who, you know, at the time, I think maybe I had like 6,000, 7,000 subs, kind of near the peak of VeVe. You know, that's, you know, that's nothing. I mean, they did give us that light, which I got like stuck up there. But yeah, we never really got like paid any
Oh, I
money.
didn't get that as well. I don't have a VeVe Lite. I think
Oh,
only the
you don't
first.
have one.
I think only the first round got that. I was in too late. I started with YouTube in end of October 21. Yeah, there you go. So
There you
yeah,
go.
he has that still up, guys. Everyone who is going nuts right now, he has that still up there. One thing is, I think there is a good thing to it though, that that they are not offering those paid promotions or whatever for us, because then, or at least I feel okay with that, because then I'm also free to pivot once I feel that I have to put out another opinion, just that it is right now, when I see parts of the community coming up with legitimate concerns, such as the ones that we are talking about today, but also others, from how designs are made over are VeVe NFTs real NFTs, or and so on. So if you're not paid, you can just ask those questions and discuss that with the community, I think.
Exactly.
So let's just quickly, just for the ones that don't know you, get back into. And by the way, we are looking together with you on the screen, just so you know, on your screen.
Oh yeah.
I can still see it. So.
Oh yeah. I was getting some stuff.
Quick question here is just let us know a little bit, 1 to 2 minutes, your background, so that people also know where you're coming from, because you have a very differentiated history, I think, from being a teacher to technological programming background with NFT project. You know the guys from, for example, Epico Regal. So maybe you can just give us a breakdown why you are so deep in the matter. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. So my background is kind of weird. So I used to be a scientific researcher, so I kind of know how to do due diligence. I was featured in a few research papers as well on stem cells, and then I realized I didn't pay very well, so I pivoted to teaching, which obviously, that obviously doesn't pay very well, but I wanted to give it a try. Did that for a few years. So the program I did it with, it's technically a charity, or a non-profit actually. The cool thing is, because the program is quite intense that I did, they have partners with a lot of financial institutions, where basically the logic was, if you can complete that 2 years of hell, then by default, they kind of use that as a way to assume that you're resilient enough to work in any kind of location. So a lot of these financial institutions, banks, etc., if you finish this 2 years of teaching program, they just automatically allow you to apply for their company, and it's like a fast track process. So I did that 2 years, and then I got fast tracked into Bloomberg. So Bloomberg, Bloomberg News, they do like the Bloomberg terminals. They were featured in like Big Short, big financial institution. So I worked there as an equity analyst and in sales and marketing. So the marketing side, I was kind of based around mostly kind of Europe and North America. So that was kind of marketing, partly the equity analyst tools to hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, investment banks, kind of going over and pitching it to them, as well as kind of working as an analyst. So basically, I was working alongside, for example, let's say traders, portfolio managers, kind of building models with them on our tools, because a lot of it's quite proprietary. Like they have their own programming language as well, called BQL. They have their own version of Python. I can't remember what it was called now. But yeah, so that's kind of where I started to learn basics of programming as well. And then I was like, oh, I quite like doing this. So I quit my job, left finance, marketing, all that stuff behind, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go learn and be a software engineer. So I spent 8 months quite intensively, self-learning. I did a boot camp. I did some shadowing where I could. I just literally 24/7. I was just coding. And then I got my first job in an asset management firm as a software engineer. And then later on, I moved around. And then nowadays, I still do that as a day job. But then I do, like I said, I contract as well. So I'll contract with projects who, maybe they've got a marketing strategy, but they don't quite know how to market in Web3, for example. So I've worked with a few projects. I'm working with one right now. And then I'll obviously I used to make more content. Nowadays I make less just because, I've been busy with other stuff. I've been really focused on improving my trading for this year. For those who follow me, they can see that. And then, I generally just love talking about tech with people. I've never charged for that side of my time. Obviously if it's a company contracted for doing one-off projects, then that's fine. But generally I've been quite, open with knowledge, because I always think, you shouldn't need to paywall knowledge. If you want to grow this space, then you should be free to kind of share it, converse. And that's kind of my sort of ideology or, approach towards it. Maybe in the future, if I do kind of one-to-one kind of, something that requires a lot of my time with someone, then maybe I might charge for that, just because it takes up a lot of my time. But just in general, I enjoy sharing knowledge and that kind of stuff, based in this, especially this tech space,
which you are doing right now on Twitter. Just that people, which people sometimes do not appreciate maybe as much as even though it's also knowledge if you don't like it, right? But now the big question here that I think is still missing to the viewers is, you have also had in the beginning phases of Ecomi and VeVe a lot of contact with David Yu, with parts of the VeVe team, obviously not with the newer members or even with them, I don't know. How did you come close to them? And I think you had somewhat not a consulting role, but you were giving improvement advice and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So this was early. This was March 2021, or maybe early April 2021.
So when the app came out.
Yeah, well, when the app kind of became more popular, because the app came out October 2020 with the first drop.
Sure.
And then I was mainly just helping people in Telegram. And then Reese reached out to me, and he basically approached me, and he's what's your background, what you doing, etc., etc. And then straight away, the first thing I said to him was, I'm not looking for a job, because that's the thing, is I'm not the type of person who would go too heavy in a new startup. I would do contracted roles, but not a full on thing, because I could tell early on that there was a lot of things that they needed to work on, and it was I'm someone who values my time. So I was and I'm someone who also, I like to do a good job. So if I wanted to do, hypothetically, if I did want to do a good job for something that they're working on, it would take up way too much of my time, because I could see there was a lot of stuff to do. But Reese was oh no, we're just looking for someone to do what was it, some QA kind of stuff. He introduced me to the bug bounty program that they did back then, where you get gems for helping find bugs and that kind of stuff, which I don't think I actually ever got my gems. I think they just forgot. But yeah, I was doing that kind of stuff, and I met some other devs in the community, really, really, really good devs. And then I just carried on like kind of finding stuff. So sometimes like when I was like just digging through stuff, I would find some funny stuff. Like I found I think the video that made my channel go viral with like the VeVe community was that time when I went through the app and I found a Captain America inside the app, like a model of it. And this was like back in April 2021, like way before Marvel was announced. So I was like, oh, I think they have Marvel. And then later on, it was confirmed that they did. But that was quite funny, and there were a lot of memes that came from that. But that's kind of like how it started. And then I met like some other people who work either for or with the company like along the way. And then like I was just always kind of giving suggestions. Some of the suggestions went down quite well. Some of the suggestions like didn't go so well. But not just suggestions, but whenever there was something that I found or someone else found that was like a major bug or major issue or like a major exploit that could have been exploited, then straight away like I would have either someone directly from the team or someone I know who had direct contact with like the CTO at the time, just to get it like fixed straight away. Because I'd seen some like quite dangerous exploits that were fortunately patched before they were heavily exploited. But that's kind of like it was just all voluntary stuff. Like they didn't pay me for any of that. Like it was just because I just find it interesting. I enjoy doing it, and it gave me cool content to talk about.
Yeah, so we can see that the interest is still there, but do you also still have the direct contact to devs and members of the team, or did that with, let's say, with the comments that you made on Twitter, did that go away?
No. Mitch, I basically, as soon as he was like public with people, like, straight away we were chatting, like we had a very, very long like call just talking about our backgrounds and things. So Mitch, like I've literally always said like I like Mitch. He's a cool guy. He's like very pragmatic and he's top tier. The new CTO, he follows me on Twitter. Like I spoke to him quite early on. And he reached out to me at one point as well because of there was an issue with when they launched MCP. There was some I think crypto payouts, crypto pay in. There was an issue there. Like I spoke to him one-to-one. So they're always there. Mitch is quite responsive. To be honest, like I don't have like too much of a reason per se to talk to other people on the team nowadays. It's mostly if I just come across something that I think is an issue in the app, I have Mitch or the CTO. I can just easily contact them, and they're very responsive. Like they're nice guys.
Yeah, and Caro wants to know, Kay, why the old CTO left?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. So basically, he, as many people, he had a kid, and he wanted to spend his time focusing on his kid rather than a job. So, and I get that. I would probably do the same, to be honest. And plus, like his background, and he was like right there at the start. So clearly, he must have made enough money to easily retire. So for him, like I would probably do the same. I'm like, I don't want to miss the early years of my kid growing up, and this company will be fine as it is. So like it was a good time, good experience. Good time to go focus on life.
That doesn't sound all too negative, but guys, just for the chat, first of all, 50 people in here, smash the like button. And secondly, I have seen a lot of questions that fit in a little bit later in that discussion. So we are going back on those questions, but maybe to pick up the not so tech savvy people here, right, with the main topic, if VeVe NFTs are real NFT, from your more technical standpoint, way more technical than I could ever be, because I'm a sales guy. I only know talking and having some slides up. What is a full-fledged, like pure NFT?
Okay, so an NFT is a very broad term. So I'm going to tell you what is an NFT, what is not an NFT, and what is an on-chain NFT and what is an off-chain NFT, because I think those are important. So we'll go down from the absolute basics, the base layer, right? So an NFT is essentially what we call a technical specification, right? So one example that many people are already familiar with is what is an API, right? So people know that an API, application protocol interface, is basically just a way of communicating with some server. And typically there are, with an API, you're expecting to get data, you're expecting to send data, you're expecting to be able to, with permissions, delete data and update data, right? And typically anyone who maybe is familiar, you don't even have to be a programmer, anyone who's just, familiar with APIs, they know what an API looks like they know the things in there, right? And so with an NFT, it's exactly the same. It's a tech spec. So with an NFT, it's essentially a collection of very certain types of data. So for example, if you saw something, okay, from now on, when I refer to a collection of data, I'm going to call it an object, right? Because that's just general terminology. So if you see an object with very certain types of data in it that include a token ID, it includes an asset link, it includes maybe like a mint date, it includes a royalty amount, 5% or something. If you see an object with all of those things in it, right? That is an NFT, essentially. Now, there are different types of NFTs, but the one that we're most commonly exposed to is the ERC 721 standard, right? So ERC 721, people know what that standard looks like. And the reason why we have these standards is because if you make a platform and you make it compatible with ERC 721, that means all the developers out there, they know what type of object to create so that it works on your platform, because they know your platform is expecting a token ID, it's expecting, a mint date, it's expecting a royalty amount, So an NFT is essentially just a collection of very specific types of data. So that's literally all it is, right? So that concept, now if we've established that, then we can move on to what is an off-chain NFT and what is an on-chain NFT. Now, that collection of data that I've described to you, the ERC 721 standard, that can exist on a blockchain, and it can also exist off a blockchain, right? Because data doesn't have to be on a blockchain. I know that blows some people's mind, but it can be on a database. It can be on an Excel spreadsheet. It can be, on a floppy disk. It does not have to be on a blockchain, the data. So we have off-chain NFTs and on-chain NFTs. So if we focus on layer twos, right? Because VeVe's on a layer two, a lot of digital collectibles, they're on layer twos. Why are they on layer twos? Because typically layer one, Ethereum, it costs a lot of gas. At the time it used a lot of energy. Since the upgrade, not so much. But layer twos, typically there's a bit more control as well. So two good layer twos that I know of, Polygon and Immutable X. Now, if we focus on those two, right? So Polygon in itself is a layer two that is also a blockchain. Now, IMX is an interesting one because it's a layer two that is a scaling solution, but it's not a blockchain. So IMX is essentially, it is an API in itself, which interfaces with various different databases and buckets and nodes. So that's all controlled by Immutable itself. Whereas Polygon, they've gone and created their own blockchain, which kind of does all the transactions for a much smaller gas fee. But you can actually see it on Polygon Scan. It's EVM compatible, all of that stuff. So if we have an NFT on IMX, that's what we currently describe as an off-chain NFT. If we have a NFT on Polygon, then that's an on-chain NFT. Now, with layer one, that's obviously on-chain because that is Ethereum layer one. That's the parent blockchain, you could call it. So with Ethereum, what IMX does is they actually give you the option. You can either have off-chain NFTs on layer two, or if you want and you care about the blockchain, you have the option of sending the NFT to layer one. So what they call bridging it. And so you can have your NFT on-chain. At the moment, there are projects like VeVe that basically prevent the bridging process because they've stated that the licenses that they work with, they're not very open to going, out on layer one yet. And also there's royalties that can't be enforced on layer 1 as well. I know Immutable X is working on a solution for that, but on layer 2, the royalties can be enforced. So if, for example, VeVe wanted to stay on layer 2, but just go on the IMX marketplace as well, that the royalties shouldn't really be an issue there. The control, they still have control, that shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, a lot of people have this misconception that you have to be on a blockchain to be considered an NFT. You technically don't. But if you want to be an on-chain NFT, if you want to claim your own blockchain, then yes, you have to be on a blockchain. But I think also a lot of people don't quite understand how IMX works either, because what IMX does is the way that they ensure, immutability is they take all the transactions that are happening on their layer 2, on their layer 2 platform, and they basically send all of those events that took place to Ethereum as one, let's call it one file. We call it one commit, but let's call it one file, which has a list of every event that took place. So at least
which is then on-chain.
So yeah, that part goes to the blockchain. So
what part exactly is that? Just in some, let's say more simpler terms. Is that a token, or is that only a derivative of a token, or what is that?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So if you imagine that you send me a Batman, I go send that Batman to Kyle Wilson, and then I don't know, Daniel Lee goes and purchases a Luke Skywalker from the store. All of those events taking place, they're all recorded on IMX, right, on their own kind of database. And so if you imagine every transaction as a line, like all these events happening, what they do is they then take that whole list of transactions and they take that file and they just send that whole file to Ethereum to confirm all of these events have taken place. Now that file, if we go back to what I said earlier about what is an NFT, it's an object with a certain type of data structure. That file is not an NFT. It doesn't follow any of this data structure. It's just essentially, think of it as a spreadsheet that has recorded all the events. So if in the future someone wanted to say, did K really receive Batman from Patient Hodler, then on Ethereum, that record of that transaction exists, but that record itself is not an NFT. That's not an individual token that you can own or trade or sell, or that's tied to any individual assets. It's just think of it as a registry that now exists on Ethereum.
It's basically a roadmap. It's basically a roadmap where which token went off chain in that database. So
exactly.
I sent only the history of the token movements that happened off chain and mint that on chain. Is that it?
Yes, exactly. Okay. That's exactly what it is. And I think once people realize that, then they ask the question of, so my NFT, my token, it's not on a blockchain, but that's kind of half true. Basically, what happens is also the contract, what it does is it reserves the token ID that you have off-chain, so that when you do choose to mint it, it has the exact same token ID that was off-chain, because that's reserved for you. So basically, just because it's on layer 2 doesn't mean it can't become an NFT with its own token on-chain. There's a process for that. I've read the smart contracts already. Basically, there's a mint for function, which gets called by the IMX bridge. So what you do is you basically, and if you've used Hero, like you'd already know how it works. So you basically take your NFT, you move it to your IMX wallet, then you essentially choose the option of bridging that token from your wallet. Then it will charge you some gas fees. And this is the other important point, is every transaction on Ethereum is not free. No transactions are free. Like, you have to pay a fee. And that's partly why the layer 2 exists, is so you can go get around paying, these crazy fees for every transaction. But when you bridge, because that counts as a transaction on Ethereum, you pay a fee, which might be $15, $10, whatever. And then once it's on layer 1, every time you move it around, every time you do whatever with it, you have to pay a fee as well, because now all of the events are happening on chain because they're all tied to that one individual NFT that you own. So that's the downside. But again, because every single transaction with that token is on chain, you can very easily kind of, have an audit trail. You can very easily kind of move it between wallets. That sense of, like, I guess some people call it true ownership, where the token itself or the asset is in your own wallet. That's where, you achieve that. And you can, once it's on layer 1, anything that's EVM compatible, like, in theory, you can kind of move it in and out. So that's where you also get like the kind of true interoperability as well. So yeah, once people kind of understand how IMX works, how Polygon works, what is the difference between on-chain and off-chain? I think just to also clarify, like something being interoperable isn't a requirement to be an NFT. Some people think it is, but it's not. The guy who's the CEO of Wax was trying to make that point, but that's false. You don't have to be interoperable to be classified as an NFT. NFT, like I said, is a technical specification. It's just how certain data is structured in a certain way. And that's it. Like that's literally the definition.
Theoretically, I could make Counter-Strike weapon skin interoperable, right? So it doesn't have to be an NFT. It's just then that another game can also display the same mechanics functionalities based on having whatever similar standard and an API to transfer or what, I don't know. Based on that, when we are talking about interoperability, that's one thing. How do we get stuff in the metaverse and from there to Sandbox or from Decentraland, VeVeverse? That's one thing, interoperability. The other thing is self-custody. Is it possible to have self-custody when it's an off-chain NFT in a database? Or do you have to have an on-chain NFT, basically? Do you have to bridge first to enable self-custody?
Yeah, you're never ever going to have true self-custody on a layer 2 in the current way. It's just because that layer 2 is controlled by a centralized entity, and that centralized entity is always going to, if they want to take something back, if they want to delete something, if they want to give you something, like they have the full power to do that. And I think people have learned that very recently. I don't know why people didn't realize that if you mint something on a layer 2, then the controlling entity has the power to take it back. For example, the accidentally minted Dumbo posters that were below mint number 40 on VeVe, for example, those just got literally, accounts were frozen, those got taken back, and the people were given, a replacement. And, I think the people who had that happen to them, I think it was only a couple of people, but they were not happy. And they were asking, this isn't Web3, you can't do that, etc., etc. But VeVe is on a layer 2, partly because they have that control. And so you can't have like true self-custody when you're off-chain in that sense. But what you can have is you can have a sense of self-custody because, for example, the IMX wallet, because that's also on layer 2, and that, the VeVe collectibles, they're built on IMX. You can always move them to your IMX wallet if VeVe allows you to do so. Now, I believe even if you do that, I think they still have the power to reclaim those back. I think they would have to, I'm not sure if they can just do it straight up or if they'd have to ask IMX to do it in that case. But there is an entity that can still always claim those back. Once they're on chain, then they can't touch it. Like that is 100% yours. Because at that point it's on a decentralized platform. That's just one of the things they have to live with. And I think some people, they think that's bad. I don't personally have too strong of an opinion on that. Like that's the whole point. We're trying to go towards a decentralized space, not an alternative centralized space. Because then what's the whole point of this blockchain thing? Like the fundamentals of it was to create a decentralized network which isn't controlled by a singular entity. That is the whole point of a blockchain. It's a chain of people, chain of data that's essentially like held up by various different nodes, which aren't controlled by a singular entity. You can get singular entities that control all the nodes. We can get a centralized kind of blockchains, but like Ethereum, once they're on Ethereum, like they aren't going to get it back. So that's the downside, I guess, from a company perspective, but it's a plus side from a user perspective.
So with that all said, I think there is a third component, which is what we actually see from that NFT, which is the graphic data set, the file, so to say, which is also not minted on the blockchain. It's just that the data set that you have in the database that you told initially, it points to somewhere on the server, right? That then says, hey, this token, if there is a token, or this data set is part of this drop or this character model. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. So what I've done is I actually just pulled something up on the share screen as well whilst I explain this. So so basically that's another cool aspect is we have the assets that can be also, so NFTs, what they've typically done is they've solved the problem of ownership. So ownership in a form of a token, right? So you can have it in your wallet, you can send it, you can transact it, you can, burn it, etc. What they haven't quite solved yet, or maybe not to a mass audience yet, is the problem of storage. So a blockchain, like I said earlier, you can't use the blockchain for free. You have to pay those validators, you have to pay a fee. And the fee is calculated by how much data you're using. Now, if you have a look at 3D files, they have huge data, right? On the blockchain, you're transacting in like, kilobytes, bytes of data, not, megabytes or gigabytes. Like you're going to pay, tens of thousands of dollars to, do a transaction in megabytes. So 3D files, that's kind of out of the question. But that's not to say that there aren't solutions being worked on and developed. So typically what happens is you've got your token on chain, or some platforms they choose to have it off chain, but the assets in many cases they're pretty much always off chain, so they're stored in a database somewhere, and the token will point to that asset and allow the user to essentially access that asset, with the token acting as a key. So that's what VeVe does. Their assets are all stored on Amazon Web Servers. Some places they tend to use IPFS because that's more decentralized than Amazon. And some places, some projects, they actually are on chain. So they keep the assets on chain, but that's mainly because the assets are very, very basic, simple assets. They're 2D JPEGs that don't really have much of a large file size. So there's a project called On-Chain Monkeys a while back that they basically minted these monkey NFTs, and they were 100%, the asset was on chain as well as the token. So there's nothing that can prevent the token from not displaying the asset, because, for example, when FTX got rug pulled, anyone who minted NFTs on FTX, because the assets were also hosted by FTX, all of the tokens, the NFTs, they all started displaying broken links because the assets were no longer being hosted. So you basically had rug pulled NFTs right there.
So if AWS would go down in flames for whatever reason, not exist anymore, then basically the VeVe app would be empty with broken links. Is that
basically
what you're saying?
Your assets are gone unless you've already downloaded them on your device, because the way they work is they don't stream the assets from the servers. They I'm sure you've noticed that when you click on an asset, it downloads it to your device, right? Like you see the little download thing, and you can even delete it from your device if you go in your settings. So I think for the assets you've downloaded, you should still be able to access them offline on your device. But any new assets that you have to download, because if it's the first time you're looking at it, you basically get a broken link. So with these assets, there are now solutions for storing 3D assets kind of on chain as well. So this one, Arweave, I was introduced to this one by Kyle Wilson. Mm-hmm. So Arweave, it says network is like Bitcoin, but for data, a permanent and decentralized web inside an open ledger. So basically it's being used to store assets on chain. And they kind of describe, the use of Arweave. And they have people building and using Arweave already. It's not mass adopted because it's such a new technology. But Arweave is definitely one that I would look into because they're solving a problem. This is 100% solving a problem. And you can see, they've got something in the works with Meta, Instagram. So
I'm actually familiar. I own, just as a disclaimer for everyone, I own a little bit of Arweave, and Kay bringing that up was not planned at all, by the way.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Just saying that in the beginning of the year, I recommended that as one of my 7 favorite altcoins. But I think if I understood Arweave right, it's a decentralized storage solution in the sense that you can basically use the underlying token to purchase storage, so that like a Google what is it, Google Drive subscription.
Google Drive,
yeah. So just that it's decentralized and not dependent on a big Google firm.
Exactly.
Great. Just a quick, the chat is going completely crazy with questions. I'm trying to keep up, so maybe we can just bring some in. We have VeVe Vault here, or OG Vault now. The question is, are those IMX reservations time-stamped so that FAs are still FAs when or if they go to layer 1?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so what I'll do, right, is let me give you something. So
and with reservations, is that the... Okay.
Yeah, so basically, here's an example, right? So this is dark side from Hero. So they use IMX as well. This is a dark side that was bridged. So again, you can see token standard ERC721 because it has all of these things in it. It has an owner, contract address, a token ID. Like I said, if you just showed me these things, I'd be like, yeah, those are properties of an NFT. And you can kind of see, like the traits and things here. Description,
okay,
hero
but there's
card.
a lot of metadata within that.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing, right? And I spoke to the Hero team, the devs, about this directly because I want to ask them because the token ID on layer 2 has been reserved for layer 1, like Volt is asking, if that reservation, the mint date on layer 2, if it transfers over to layer 1. And the answer I was told, and I looked at this deeper, is no, it does not. So basically, as you can see, the date that this became an on-chain NFT from an off-chain NFT was 400 days ago, right? So that's the timestamp if I hover over it. So it was on the 30th of March at 12:55:51, right? I don't know if you can see that, but I'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So that was the day it was minted. So that's the day someone bridged it and pressed that mint button. And you can see it went to this wallet here. And here's the transaction for it. So this is the timestamp of it now. And if you remember, or maybe I don't know if you do, but I remember Hero, they didn't launch these cards on that day. They launched them a little bit earlier than that. So this was probably scanned before the 30th of March, but on the blockchain, it shows as it was minted on the 30th of March. Does it show maybe the date it was dropped here? No, it doesn't. So yeah, what VeVe has is maybe on the properties, the metadata, they might show the drop date, but they won't show the exact same timestamp that you would actually minted it, because the drop date and the mint date aren't the same thing. So if you're arguing about the day that it went on chain, it would be this date that you have next to where it shows mint. That's the day it went on chain. The day that it was actually dropped as a digital collectible, I think they will include that as a property in the metadata. And that's just, I asked them, is there a way to reference the L2 data with the L1 token? They said not by default. Like they can create tools that were like a website or something, like an API where, you can check your token and you can then interface with the IMX API and see all the transactions that happen on IMX for that token before you bridged it over. They can create tools like that, but it's not something that you could see on a blockchain. It would be basically an API interfacing with IMX. The stuff on a blockchain is all here on Etherscan. So this is the entire blockchain history of this dark side. They minted it, they transferred it to someone else, and that's it. It's April 15th. It's not really done anything since then.
And that's substantially different from what we see on Etherscan or on what is it? Yes, it's
Etherscan.
Etherscan for VeVe, right?
Yeah, so VeVe doesn't. They can't use
Etherscan. I meant Immutable.
Yeah. Because Etherscan scans the Ethereum blockchain. Immutable scans Immutable X's own databases, and those transactions, like I said, is what the list of transactions that you see on Immutable. They send all of those to Ethereum, but that's not like you wouldn't be able to go on Etherscan, which is the layer 1 blockchain, and actually see something like this yet. VeVe would need to allow you to bridge it, mint it to layer 1 as an NFT on chain, and then you'd be able to see this kind of stuff here.
Okay, so considering everything that you have said right now, if we now say, okay, we have NFTs on-chain, off-chain, Polygon is L2, but on-chain, IMX is L2, but off-chain. And then there is also data files on probably centralized storage where the data points to. And in the best case on IMX, we have a roadmap sent to Ethereum that basically says who got what inside of that database ecosystem. Considering all of that, someone asked it here point blank. Are those NFTs now real NFTs, or are they fake NFTs, or do we have to just live with this word that it is an NFT, as you said before? But as IMX is a database and we do not have a real timestamp on blockchain, so how do we call it? Do we say they are NFTs? They're not NFTs?
They're NFTs. So if I go back to the original point I made, right, is an NFT is just a type of data structure. So on VeVe, they are NFTs because they follow the ERC 721 standard. That standard, it can be, like I said, it can exist off-chain and on-chain. Now, if someone goes and says VeVe has on-chain NFTs, that is 100% false. That is not correct, because the NFTs are not on-chain, and anyone who understands this stuff, they can very easily prove so. If VeVe says we have NFTs, then yes, that is 100% true, because the NFTs, what VeVe has, they still follow the right data structure for ERC 721. It's just that data structure, that piece of data, that object, it exists on IMX layer 2 right now, not on Ethereum, or not on a blockchain, I should say, because on layer 2 you can get blockchains, like I said, like Polygon. IMX is designed to be a scaling solution. It's not designed to be a blockchain. So VeVe NFTs, to answer that question, they are real NFTs. But if you want to be specific, they are not on-chain NFTs. They are off-chain NFTs.
Okay. And now I think I think the stream is perfect, like falling on the perfect date, because today we had an announcement from Cryptoys that they are bringing officially licensed Disney, Star Wars NFTs. I've seen an article from Refresh Miami, but probably you already have a better source there. And since you have already the screen there, maybe we can share that, because right now, since we know VeVe has original NFTs, but they are not on-chain, the whole discussion starts, what's really a first appearance if someone brings something on-chain before I transfer my Star Wars Darth Vader to layer 1, which I can't because I'm blocked from doing that. Even though I want to pay the gas fees, I can't because I'm locked in. So there you go. For everyone who hasn't seen that yet, Cryptoys is dropping Luke, Leia, Darth Vader in somewhat of a bubblehead figurines. I think they have some mystery boxes to unlock there. Site seems a little bit laggy. I don't know if that's only from.
Oh, I think that's the stream. Yeah, the site's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's
so site is smoother. So what would you say? Is that, first of all, is that Darth Vader, the first appearance of Darth Vader once it drops from Cryptoys? And second question to that, maybe as a follow-up, and by the way, just pull that up here. Thank you, Justin, for the question. We're going to that in a second. Thank you so much for the donation. But secondly, would be, if I were to transfer that my Darth Vader before the 24th, then do I have the first appearance, and does it matter in the end, or is already the NFT that we have in the database enough, and the whole blockchain layer 1, layer 2 database on off chain is just for nerds?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So this is a point that I made many months ago, and I was pushing this point heavily. Was, at least whichever one of the, because firstly, as a fact, we know there are some licensors on VeVe who want to go on-chain interoperable ASAP. A lot of the artists, they've been waiting for it for ages, because they've publicly said they want to do that. So at least for these people who do want to go on-chain, and DC Comics, they're perfectly fine with going on-chain, because from day one on Hero, they're like, they're clearly like, we don't care, throw our IP on layer 1 Ethereum, like, money, like as long as it gets the word out, I guess, because again, I don't think they really care about the enforceable royalties or not. DC just seems to want to put their IP out wherever possible. So this is a point that I made is, at least for who wants to do interoperability by going to layer 1, allow them to do it, because for the community, they've purchased these collectibles thinking, they are currently first appearances on chain. Now, to VeVe's credit, they were the first appearances on chain when they were on GoChain, right? Because GoChain was a proper blockchain. It wasn't a very popular one, but it was 100% a blockchain. It just, they have the ability to privatize the transactions, everything that's happening on there. It's a permissioned blockchain, basically. So only, let's say, the admins of that GoChain project, only they can see the transactions. That's just how it was. So all of that stuff from pre-IMX, that was all 100% on chain. No one could argue against it. Some people tried to argue against it, saying GoChain isn't really a blockchain, etc. But that was 100% on chain, 100% NFT on chain. So since moving to IMX, I think maybe I would strongly not be surprised if because of how new the technology was. And I always made it a point that the more technical people within a company, they don't quite they're not involved in the community. I'm sure you can tell that the people involved in the community are more on the marketing communication side. And so that's where you have a gap, is the technical people probably didn't realize that the community would value mint numbers and the first appearances on chain as much. So I guess that's partly why they advised IMX as a solution, because it was gasless. But the collectible being on chain probably wasn't taken into consideration whilst on IMX. And so we have Flow that came along. So Flow is a blockchain. And so these collectibles are going to be on a blockchain. And because Darth Vader and these other Star Wars ones came after the move from GoChain to IMX, they're currently awaiting to become on-chain NFTs. So if your concern is which ones are the first appearances on a blockchain, then right now, the stuff that's dropping on the May 24th, unless VeVe allows you to mint them onto a blockchain and go interoperable that way. Actually, it doesn't have to. Minting on a blockchain will allow you to go interoperable. I'm not saying interoperability is a necessity to being, on a blockchain, right? If IMX and VeVe allow you to kind of mint that, then yeah, VeVe's ones will be the first appearances on chain. They're the first appearances off chain. That's fine, but Cryptoys, they're going to be claiming a lot of first appearances on blockchain, because when it comes to the blockchain, the data is going to show, these were the first on a blockchain. Now, the first to be dropped off-chain versus blockchain, like you said, I think, honestly, in my opinion, people aren't really going to care because, if you're targeting the mass audience, and if the mass audience, they just care about cool stuff, they don't really care about what came first, then yeah, that's fine. And I think, to be honest, the true is kind of true of physicals as well. I collect a lot of physical stuff, and I don't really care what came first. If it's cool, I'll buy it. And I think, if VeVe can make their stuff, appealing to the mass audience, then they're not going to care. They're going to buy it. If Cryptoys can do it, make it appealing to a mass audience, then they're not going to care what came first. They're going to buy it. I think it's a very small niche group of people that would probably actually care about this kind of thing. But it's not so much who cares and who doesn't. I think it's more from a marketing perspective, right? It's a bit misleading to kind of claim we have millions of NFTs on chain when you actually don't. It's just not true.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. What really here is the underlying problem. I also believe that in the end, it won't matter to most people. There will be a small group of blockchain enthusiasts that will focus on that and maybe will collect according to that. But for example, when transfers were still available, I gave a MC1 comic to my mother, and she has it ever since on her account. She doesn't care. Also, if I tell her, hey, by the way, this was actually minted on GoChain because that dropped 2021, she will ask me what GoChain is.
Yeah.
And then, so there are a lot of people in the mass spaces or in the mass market that still think it's cool to have the first Marvel comic on the phone, and also understand the concept of even crypto and maybe NFTs if you explain it. But that's about it. I think they will not dive so deep that they can. And also, how would you prove, for example, that's just one thing that just came to my mind. How would you prove that this has actually been before minted on a GoChain token? Where is that token? Can I take that token where it was minted before?
Yeah, no one's got those. No, that's
Yeah.
the thing. If they gave ownership of those tokens, but then you would have technically two tokens. You'd have the IMX off-chain token and a GoChain on-chain token. Technically, you've got like double the NFTs, which wouldn't work. Yeah, VeVe, I think, I can't remember if they burned them or they locked them up forever. But yeah, those tokens that were actually the true FAs on chain, they're in the hands of VeVe basically. So you know,
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that, you know, just assume they're gone from existence.
Probably you could find them somewhere on the GoChain Explorer. So if you know exactly what you're looking for, but I just wanted to add, and Justin, forgive me for just getting rid of this one for a second, but VeVe Vault had a follow-up here on
We'll
this.
come back to it.
Yeah, we will comment that right after. I just wanted to bring this here up first. If this logic were true, there would only be one FA NFT. Somebody could mint a crypto Vader first, then somebody mints a VeVe Vader the next day. So only one Vader would then be the first on chain, and everything else is not the first appearance.
That's 100% true. So that's basically what Kyle Wilson was trying to do with Hero. So because basically, unlike IMX, which basically generates these tokens off chain in batches to the point where the timestamp looks basically identical for every single person's one. In this case, because it's an individual person minting an individual token, it's very, very unlikely that two people are going to mint it at the exact same timestamp to the millisecond. So if you mint it and I mint it and I've got a slightly better internet connection and, you know, like I pay more for gas to get mine done first, and let's say mine was minted at 11:55, yours was minted at 11:57, I now have the first on-chain Darth Vader. So if you like actually care about this stuff, right, that's true. Only one person out of everyone can truly claim the first. It's like a leaderboard. Like there's going to be there's going to literally going to be a first Darth Vader on the chain, second Darth Vader, third Darth Vader. So that in itself, I think, is like the true form of what we consider edition numbers, like first, second, third. Because in real life, the first edition of a physical is the first created one, right? In this case, the edition number can be 5,200, right? It doesn't matter. If the timestamp shows that it was the first actual minted on-chain, then that is the true number one, in a sense, which I think is actually maybe reassuring for people, because VeVe always keeps mint number one. But technically, if VeVe bridges their NFTs on-chain after you actually have the true number ones now, because you have the true number ones according to the blockchain, not according to some arbitrary metadata that they created themselves. So in a way, if VeVe allows the bridging and everything, you could actually have, in theory, if you truly believe first in a blockchain has value, your NFTs actually have the chance of having more value than VeVe's, if you can beat them at minting on chain. Now, what I suspect they might do is they might actually prevent you from bridging your NFTs until after they've bridged theirs, just to be like, yeah, we're gonna claim all the first appearances on blockchain.
If you manage to do that before VeVe, then you can have a party with the other 6 people that care about this. But yeah,
exactly.
I'm just joking, obviously, because we know, as Justin also pointed out, this space is driven by Web3 people currently, which is true, which is also the reason why this is such a big deal. If we would have millions and millions of retail users that don't care about, that only want to use the front end and not the back end mechanics of decentralized applications, blockchains, minting, and so on, then probably we wouldn't have even that discussion, because then it's like, okay, off-chain, on-chain, it's an NFT, so what? But right now, unfortunately or fortunately, maybe fortunately, because it makes things better, the space is driven. But let's get quickly to this question from Justin here. What your opinion is on Dan calling the VeVe-verse engine agnostic?
Yeah, so just to add some context to that, right? I'm going to bring up something else that was quite funny. So, because this is kind of relevant as well. Let me bring it up.
Okay. Oh yeah. I saw that video from Callum.
So I actually spoke to him very briefly on Twitter as well, right? So he actually commented on this because I found it funny because I was like, you know what? I thought a lot of the stuff he said was exact same things that I thought as well. And I didn't know who he was until recently, and so I found out that he's actually a game developer, and he's actually very talented. He recreated Earth 2, but better in like a week by himself. Like he did a challenge because the Earth 2 CEO basically challenged him to go do better himself, and he actually did it, and he did it in a week. So he's actually a really good dev, from what I can tell. And I've seen some of his other stuff, like some of his games that he's made are like really, really like proper AAA high quality. So he's definitely qualified in discussing, like these kind of technical topics as well. But also following his community, a lot of them are game devs and engineers and like proper like blockchain like people. So it was interesting because this is like outside of the VeVe community, and you can actually see this video that he did. It's got 30,000 views already. That's a lot. That's a lot of views. That's like more than 4 times what VeVe got on like the most recent AMA community update video, which a lot of people were kind of waiting for. So that kind of goes to show that a lot of people are watching this stuff, and it's quite interesting to see what people outside of the VeVe community who are like who understand the tech and everything, what they think. And so, the whole engine agnostic thing, I found it weird, right? Because he basically, I was confused by what it is because I've done game development myself. I've used Unity. I've only briefly used Unreal, but I understand like the basics, how it works. And I was like thinking, how can something be game engine agnostic? Like how does it work in both engines, right? It's like designed to work in one or the other. And so what I think he meant after he kind of spoke a bit more about it is they've built a client for the VeVeverse in Unreal, but then they've also built another client in Unity for the VeVeverse. So it's like they're replicating 2 different clients. So for example, right, with mobile apps, you can have VeVe on iOS and VeVe on Android, right? I wouldn't go and say VeVe is mobile phone agnostic. I'd just say it's multi-platform. So I think, I don't know, like I think maybe they just want to sound like more technically advanced than they are. Like you don't need to use these like words like game engine agnostic. Just say it's multi-platform. Like, that's it. And then again, it's like a really weird. Like I don't know if they misrepresented what they're trying to say, but I found it like a weird solution to have a client built in Unreal and built in Unity because. So this was misinformation from Dan when he was talking about Unreal's rendering capabilities, right? Is a lot of people have this misconception that you can only make high quality stuff in Unreal and Unity is for like janky looking Roblox stuff, which is 100% false, not true at all. Trevor, who used to work at VeVe, works on McFarlane now, even he publicly tried to explain this to people many, many times. Unity, they've got their own high definition render pipeline, but that's something that you would choose to use, right? Because you don't have to do everything in high definition. Like there's no need. Unreal just has all of that stuff on by default. So if you want to do Unreal looking stuff in Unity, 100% you can. So what they could have done is if they wanted to, is they could have had a high definition version in Unity and a low definition version in Unity. And that would just make more sense because now they just have to work with Unity. They don't have to work with 2 different game engines. It's confusing. So I think that's what he meant is it's multi-platform by game engine agnostic. And what was interesting, right, is because they're so this guy Callum Upton, he said a lot of stuff that I had questioned as well. But when I looked at the comments, I was kind of laughing, right? But a lot of these people, I can tell they know what they're talking about. Like I was reading some of these comments. Let me see. Yeah, like here, right? Level of detail support. We've had that since PS1. Spyro the Dragon was one of the first games to implement it over 20 years ago. And this is the other thing is a lot of the features that, not just the VeVeverse, but in VeVe and stuff that people were impressed with, I was always questioning, like, this isn't unique to VeVe. This is just a feature of the platform they're using to build on. So if, an augmented reality model, if you think that's like the best thing about VeVe, that can be very easily replicated because that's not unique proprietary tech to VeVe. That's just a feature of Unreal, like a package of in Unreal. You can use Google AR Core, and basically have augmented reality 3D models. And then that's the same thing for the metaverse they're building on. Like a lot of the features of the metaverse they're using, they're features that you find in Unreal, which is also not proprietary to VeVe as a platform, because as we've seen already, Cavernous, the company that's building the VeVeverse, they basically lease out their platform, the metaverse connector, they call it, to anyone. If you've got money, they'll give it to you. So we've already seen a very similar VeVeverse platform by, I think it was World of Women. It was some women NFT project.
Yeah.
Like you don't
need... I have not seen that, but...
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's actually on their. I can show you after this. Actually, it's on their Twitter page already. Cavernous. They've shown other projects using their metaverse connector, and it actually looks exactly like VeVeverse. Just without licensed collectibles. It's like the other projects NFTs in there instead. So yeah, like I just had a look through, and then I realized, you know what? Like this is exactly what I was basically trying to protect VeVe from, right? Because people think it's FUD and it's it's
but
just
this is the point that he's referencing, which we have heard since PS1 and so on. Isn't that just like marketing speech from people that are not? I mean, these articles never written by devs. When I go and do sales pitch or whatever, I also do not stick to the original techie terms because, first of all, I don't understand them all, and secondly, my opponent usually also doesn't understand them all. So it seems that there is a pretty tech-savvy following on this guy's channel. But what do you think is the reason why? Let's say we have an overall sentiment. People are criticizing a lot of the efforts that VeVe is doing right now from model design, but also when they release a VeVeverse trailer, many people are doing comments like in the direction of that what they are showing and presenting and the timeline in which they are doing it is not really impressive and should be way better. How, from a technical standpoint now, how do you see this topic, the development on the VeVeverse, what they are presenting to us? Is there something understandable, or is this completely out of the frame already? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, with the timelines and everything, I've said this many times, and I still stand by it. Is I just wanted to see like some very good, solid technical leadership on the team. And I always said they don't need to hire an army of devs. They just need to hire a few really good ones who understand testing pipelines, who understand, really from a very, very high level view, like how to basically create the best solution for what they're trying to do. That's going to be maintainable. That can be very easily extended. Like, for example, this whole VeVeverse solution with like building in Unreal and building in Unity, I'm confused by what the true benefit of that. Like, it just sounds like maybe I've misunderstood it, but I think they could have just done it all in Unity, and that would have been simpler, and they could have still had the exact same kind of high definition. Like, I'd want to understand the exact reason why they've chosen to kind of go Unity and Unreal. But yeah, like, I think this again goes back to the point of that kind of technical literacy within the team and within the community as well. Is I think people need to kind of understand that when someone points out something that's not going well and given the reason and etc., all of that stuff, it's because genuinely some people who understand the tech, they can see something that can be a problem that if you're not a technical person, you won't be able to see it. And it's basically to protect the company in the future, because they can see that problem can become worse and can become a bigger problem. And then secondly, a lot of people in this space, just because they're not on VeVe, they are still involved in Web3 and blockchain and stuff, or they're very technically literate themselves, and they've got communities such as Callum Upton's. They're gonna see this stuff, and if for example, I'll use VeVe, if they don't kind of fix these, they might see it as nitpicking, but if you're very technically literate, you can see this is going to be a problem 100%. fix it now because it's easy enough to fix now. Because these kind of communities, when they see it, and you can see he's got like 30,000 views on his video already criticizing them, they're gonna roast you for it. Like they're gonna horribly roast you for it, and then these kind of videos go viral. And because he's got such a big following, and because he's mentioned VeVe, if you type in VeVe, his video is probably going to be one of the first that pop up now. And you could have prevented this if you just paid attention to these things that you consider technical jargon when it's really just to protect you. For example, the recent article about carbon neutrality, like it mentioned in that article that they're minting on Ethereum. When I pointed out, you shouldn't really say that. You should say you're minting on Immutable X, because that's really what you're doing. You're not minting on Ethereum. There's no record of these NFTs as individual tokens on Ethereum. It's really, really misleading. Like, it's not even misleading, it's just lying. So anyone who understands IMX and understands Etherscan and all of this stuff, like, they'll straight away see the article. They'll be like, but I don't see these on Ethereum. So, what's going on? And then they're going to make a video about it. And it might be someone with millions of subscribers, and they're just going to roast VeVe over it. And it's something that could have been very easily avoided. And this guy's whole video is basically things that I've mentioned before, which, had failed to be acted on. And they could have prevented a lot of the stuff that this guy is saying, if they just, maybe taken it a bit more seriously. But, like I said, I give this feedback, I give this stuff, not to upset people, is because I see it as something that will become a problem. And I said the same thing about, mentioning that you're minting on Ethereum when you're not. It's going to cause a problem in the future, because someone's going to see it. Either they're going to buy the stuff and ask, oh, where's my stuff on Ethereum? And then you have to explain to them it's not on Ethereum. Or they're going to see it and they're going to know it's not on Ethereum, and they're just going to make content out of it and, roast you for it. Be like, oh, look, VeVe lying to people, they're misleading you, etc. And so, if that's the route they want to take, then that's fine. But you gotta understand, there are people like Callum Upton or other people with these kind of followings that will find this stuff, and they will roast you over it.
Yeah, I think you put out a good point here, and we had talked in the beginning a little bit about this with the ironic question of if you have been paid by Quidd to put out this criticism. But to be quite frank, in before the live stream, when I put that out on Twitter, I have seen some pretty, I wouldn't say hateful comments, but some pretty angry comments, at least, on your role in the Twitter space in the last weeks. And I just wanted to let everyone know, because also myself, we have been accused as fathers for putting out some legitimate concerns about certain mechanics or things that have been brought up, or even statements that have been put out years ago, based on which people made financial decisions that are now turning in another way and are completely ignored and not even addressed. So I think the point here is, and I hope I speak for you, if not correct me, but certainly for myself, that I want to go back to that feeling where I'm so crazily bullish on Ecomi and VeVe that I can hold myself back from doing so much video content and whatever. But I also feel that exactly how you said it, that I want to put the concern out there for everyone, instead of just, how do you say it, always gaslighting and just trying to still shield something that is not going always in the right direction. In the end, I think we want to see the VeVe team, beginning with David and from everyone else, to succeed. Everyone in VeVe succeed and have a good outcome, and to see, VeVe on the top of the world. I think that's at least my goal, and I think yours as well. And that's why you provide this criticism.
Exactly. I mean, just on, since you mentioned Quidd, right? If you were an influencer in Quidd, like back in the day, like, you were like super popular, like, Mr. Beast was like their main promoter, and he's like the, basically the biggest YouTuber ever. And so that's the thing, right? Is you can see how it went with Quidd when a lot of their problems went unaddressed. Eventually, if you're like associated with Quidd, people, they just make fun of you. And we went from a situation where it was the greatest thing ever, Mr. Beast was promoting it, everyone was on Quidd, to like now, if you're buying stuff on Quidd, people make fun of you. Well, not people make fun of you, there are like some individuals who make fun of you. But like, the point is, VeVe is not immune from that kind of thing either, right? people were massively bullish. I was massively bullish as well based on information that they put out. But some of that information, it was like slightly misleading. Some of it was, just straight up like we found out that that's just not true. Some of it was maybe not true, maybe not because of their fault. It was just, they're giving us the data that they can see, but they didn't properly dig into it. There's like so many different reasons, right? Like why people's bullishness has fallen off. But at the end of the day, like I always say, I don't care if like I FUD my own bags, like if I pump my bags, like whatever. I just put out there what I believe is my genuinely true opinion based on something. And if people don't like my opinion right now, I mean, it's because my opinion is based on data that I've seen over time. For example, the data of $8 million plus going into the app every day, that's massively bullish. But we found out that a lot of that money was being laundered illegally through VeVe by that dude from Russia and those other guys like in China and stuff like, and then Interpol got involved. And like, David, you had to put out a statement saying, if you have any information on these guys, we need to find them, because they stole millions of dollars. So, like that kind of stuff. Like, so I'm not going to say, oh yeah, $8 million going into the app in a single day, that's legit. Like, obviously not. But at the time I thought it was legit because that's the data I saw. I didn't know anything about the money laundering. Like the 2.5 million users, I assumed that was legit, but I didn't realize that a lot of the 2.5 million users weren't real people. They were actually truly bots. But it's because the team also said less than 1% of users are bots. So I was like, oh, so that's fine. That's 250K or whatever. So 2.5 million people. Is it 250K? I think that's like, it's like 25K. Like, it's a small amount. So I was like, oh, okay, that's insignificant.
Right
Most
now,
users are real. There's at least over 2 million real, genuine people, but that's obviously turned out to be false as well. So, all of these reasons, right? Like, then I had to reevaluate my position. Like, like if all of these things were true and it was still true to this day, I'd be 100% bullish. But, since those things that I was bullish on turned out not to be real legitimate data, I had to like, reevaluate and look at, okay, so what am I still bullish on? Is it the technology? I would say not really, because they're really struggling to deliver, not even like super technically complex stuff. It's just they're struggling to deliver stuff. It took like 2.5 years to release. That what?
Like the search bar?
Yeah, like a search bar. I mean, it's not like I don't know how they designed this product, but if a search bar is that hard to release, like something went horribly wrong. But they said that they weren't prioritizing the search bar, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they generally just put it off. But MCP, right? Like they started development on that like 2 years ago. Like if you're going to tell me it took 2 years to add points to some people's profile, which to be fair, they even put out recently saying that the calculations aren't actually working properly. So if you're telling me it took 2 years to put points on people's profiles that aren't even calculating properly, I would ask why. Like, what went, because that's not, firstly, no one should normalize that. Even if you're a mega bull on VeVe, you should not normalize that. You should criticize that because that's just bad. Secondly, it's like, if it's really that difficult to add some points to people's profile, how are they going to achieve that Ready Player One vision that a lot of us were sold on? Like, if you're struggling to calculate points correctly and add that to people's profile, how can you realistically, truly achieve that Ready Player One vision? Because maybe they can, but if it's taking you 2 years to add points to a profile, it's going to take you like 100 years to achieve Ready Player One at this rate. So for that reason, like, it's like, okay, do I really want to wait that long? Is this Ready Player One vision even going to be relevant in 100 years? Like, like that for that reason, then I have to start reevaluating. And if there's anything that I can say that the team themselves probably aren't aware of, or they're missing, or they haven't taken into consideration, that's going to help them at least speed up this process, I will definitely voice that because I want them to achieve that vision. Because one, like I still like the product, and two, like I put so much time into this platform and this product and community and stuff. Like I don't want to like just be like, oh, they failed, let's move on. Like I'd at least want to say, oh, I did what I could to point out areas of weakness that they're probably not seeing. For example, like the testing pipelines, I keep saying again and again, like, please just, there are people out there who are absolute like technical masters when it comes to testing. Just hire one person who is like super senior when it comes to designing testing pipelines. Have them just reform all of your backend services with like, really good tests that are automated, so that you can catch these random things like, oh, someone publicly should not be allowed to mint sub number 40s, for example, so that you can prevent stuff like that from happening. Like, just doing all of that kind of like, just that kind of stuff. Maybe they can't see that, but I can see that, and that's why I point it out. It's going to save them so much headache in the future. But if they choose not to do that, then you're going to have more and more problems like that just pop up. And then I'll come back and I'll say, oh, you could have actually prevented this if you had done this in the past. So yeah, like I know I'm like, it sounds like I'm ranting, but that's like genuinely like, like my approach to it.
I think it goes, for me, this all falls into the category of legitimate concern, just because, I mean, you had a lot of skin in the game as well. You have put massive amounts of money into VeVe. You still sit on a pretty big gem bag, if I'm not mistaken. And
oh yeah, I've got tons of gems. Right? I just sat there.
You cannot cash out, right? Because you're.
Oh yeah, and I can't cash out anyway. Like, they why won't let us cash out internationally.
But regardless of this, there was the opinion put out, and a lot of people commented on that during that growth phase, which was kind of unexpected to them, and probably also driven a lot by bots and by market activities that were from bad actors, where they just ran after the project, that they have built up so-called technical debt. So like misconstructed code, stuff that they have to clean up so that they can really build. Is that something where you would say that this could still be the reason why they cannot move forward? Or should this be done within a couple of months already?
Yeah. So this is where I have an issue with them, right? Like, this is a genuine issue. So back in March of 2021, let's say April 2021, right? They claimed that they couldn't release any of the features like MCP and all the other stuff, queue system. They claimed they couldn't do that up until like at least July time, when they said, okay, now we can start look to developing that. Because the reason they said that was they wanted to re-engineer VeVe entirely from the ground up to make sure that there was no more like scaling issues. That's literally what they said. And that was like end of July 2021, right? If it's like a year later and you're now having scaling issues, and now you're having to like re-engineer a lot of stuff again, if you're in a position where this early in the game, because they are a startup, right? If you're this early in the game and you're constantly having to re-engineer your platform, like, you've screwed up already. Like, that's it, you've screwed up. Like, you shouldn't be re-engineering your platform from the ground up constantly. Like, that's why the fact that if you were there early enough in mid 2021, and you remember them saying, hey, we're going to delay everything because we're going to re-engineer the whole backend, they shouldn't be having any scaling issues at all right now, because it's not been that long. So that leads me to the question of like, like what have you guys done? Like, like, you have to have really screwed something up for new features to be taking this long, like struggling this much to implement it. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what their code looks like because they keep it private. But yeah, that for me is a red flag. Like, I just don't know why you would be in this situation if you've actually already re-engineered your platform not that long ago. Like, so what's the issue?
Yeah, and the reason why we don't know is also goes back to the problem that I think since my channel existed, I think one of my first videos after a couple of the standard videos to try out YouTube was red flags from the AMA. It was called, or the VeVe Black Pill, were some of the videos, because I was just concerned with some of the things that they said, and it was not code, it was not technological wise or a delay or anything, it was just communication, because it went back to the banned users, where every AMA, because they hopped, I think every 2 weeks they hopped on AMAs at the time and answered community questions, which was technically a good thing, but the responses were always a different one. And I think we see that pattern over and over again. And I brought a small clip, but I want to give some context before, and that is about the why we didn't go on interoperable yet with the brands. And Reese was lately on a stream on Jordan Reese channel with also Danny the Bull, who asked a pretty good question there. And I think they asked why we didn't go interoperable yet. And let's look at the clip here, because I think that explains it all.
Their main incentive is perpetual royalties, and right now you can't enforce perpetual royalties on any platform.
But what about IMX? Can't they enforce royalties?
Not yet. They've released their, well, they're soon to release the passport, IMX passport. I don't know if you've seen that. But no, not at the moment. You can mint to IMX.
Yeah, so as we heard, basically Danny the Bull flying in there with the top edge knowledge here that IMX is able to ecosystem-wide enforce royalties, which basically was the main argument, if I understand it correctly, for VeVe to say, hey, Disney doesn't want to go have these NFTs go interoperable because then they cannot enforce royalties. And Reese basically says that IMX still can't. And I think Robbie Ferguson even commented on Twitter then that they just probably didn't know, or it was an innocent mistake, but they already can, which for me, again, is on an AMA just one day before is one thing, and then after, how do you not know, right? How do you not know that this is coming? If you're developing on IMX and living in that ecosystem, basically, you should have that inside knowledge beforehand. What are your thoughts?
I laughed when I saw that clip earlier as well, because someone posted it on Robbie's Twitter feed when I saw him tweet about the royalty thing, and I like, whatever way you look at it, like whatever way you slice the cake, like, okay, there are it just made me like, it was heavily concerning, but it was comedic at the same time, right? So firstly, royalties on IMX, like, firstly, that was straight up false. Like 100% you have enforceable royalties on IMX. It's literally part of the protocol. It's something that Robbie literally, like, you know when people like talk about like, like Donald Trump, right? Like, people all know, like, some of his catchphrases, like, will be like, build the greatest wall, or like China, like, Donald Trump's catchphrase. People know his catchphrases. For Robbie, his catchphrase is literally enforceable royalties, because that's like one of the fundamental aspects of IMX. That was like one of the reasons IMX was built. So for you to say, I don't think they have enforceable royalties, like that's false, firstly. Secondly, the reason why that's a big red flag is, if you are built on IMX and you're like, literally you use it and you don't understand that you have enforceable royalties on IMX and that's not a blocker for you to go interoperable, then you know less about the tech than I was giving credit for. Like, that's a really big red flag. Like, how would you not know that? Because if you're basing your business decisions off of you not knowing that you can actually enforce royalties on IMX, and you're basing big business decisions like interoperability on that, then that's terrible, really. Like, I can't sugarcoat that. Like, that's like, I don't even know how to phrase it. Like, it's just not good. And then the part that I actually found funny, right? Okay, so this is just me, like, poking fun at Reese, but when he got asked that question, he then mentioned the IMX passport. Like, the IMX passport, basically, it's a way of you, similar to how you have OAuth with Google or Facebook. So when you go to a website, you can click sign in by Google or sign in by Facebook. So like that OAuth way of signing in. That's basically what the IMX passport is. You go to like a Web3 platform, rather than connecting a MetaMask, you sign in with your email, and that will generate a wallet for you, right? So that is nothing to do with royalties at all, like nothing. So it was funny when he said, have you heard about the IMX passport? Like, that's like saying, restaurants are all going bankrupt because people aren't eating out. And then what do you think of that? And then Reese saying, have you heard that the McDouble is back at McDonald's? Like, it's just unrelated. Like, yeah, it's to do with, it's to do with a restaurant, but it's just unrelated to the topic. Like the passport has nothing to do with marketplaces. It's just a different thing on its own. So I don't know what the point of mentioning that was, but yeah, like it's yeah. It's like either way, if you didn't know and it was a mistake, that's a red flag. If you knew and you just wanted to make it seem like, you know, that
there's no way
IMX is not a blocker, then that's also a red flag. Like it's a red flag either way. Like, so this is what I'm saying is this response was just poorly thought out. Like, you know, maybe they thought no one would pick up on it, but this is the other thing. People do pick up on this stuff, like, because people are cute. A lot of, you know, people aren't stupid. They're curious people, I've noticed in this community. Like, they want to learn this stuff. And a lot of people do follow Robbie and IMX, and they know that royalties are enforceable in IMX layer 2. That's one of the fundamental aspects of it. So, you know, like it's kind of like it's just not good. Like, you know, it looks bad either way that you know.
Yeah, and I think again, it sounds like we are just searching for the next thing where someone slipped up and trying to FUD VeVe into the ground and stuff like that. That's how it seems to some people. But once again, these things, I mean, you saw it yourself in the clip, and how this doesn't make any sense to answer it like that, and how you should have known, and how this is a red flag. These things need to be addressed. 71 people watching us here. There are so many people out there that have gone over these 2 years into a mode where they defend whatever VeVe says, independently, or if it makes sense or not, or if it's a red flag. They just try to find a reason for why this is a good thing for VeVe, or how this somehow makes sense to say that. And you have been on the forefront to calling these things out as much as some other people in the community. And I have to say it right now here, I'm just leading up to that, including Javier Torres. Javier Torres.
Javier Torres. Who's that? I don't know.
We all know that donation just came for that. But sorry?
Who's Javier?
Yeah, who? Javier Torres?
Javier.
Okay, so, but enough with the bullshitting, people. Honestly, Javier Torres, many other people have been on the forefront there to just call these things out, and constantly been hammered down that you would do harm to the community by doing that, harm to the project by doing that. And I just can, there's not really a question in that, but I think you feel the same way still, that also these things just need to be laid out for everyone that's out there thinking about putting money into the project right now.
I think it's painfully obvious at this point that the number of active users has dropped horribly, that LK, LK, you know what, LK, shout out to LK. Like, he's one of the top tier like devs that I know, who did a lot of the bug bounty stuff as well. Like, he found so much. Like, he should be getting paid like big bucks by VeVe, to be honest. Like, you know, he's found so much good stuff. But yeah, like anyway, besides the point, like the point being, right, is VeVe has dropped horribly in users. And I think what people need to understand is a lot of these users have left, but they were never ever vocal on Twitter or any social media. They were just users. They didn't like what they were seeing anymore, because, you know, the app wasn't, you know, meeting their expectations based on what the team has said, and they just left. Like, I've met, okay, so here's a story, real life story, right? So Janie, I forgot her Twitter name, but you know, the tall Korean girl who's like involved in back cows as well. She came to London and I met her, right? And she invited me to a Web3 meetup, and I went there, and all these people, you know, they were like talking about like doodles and bases and, you know, like degenning into moonbirds and things. And I asked them about VeVe, and you know what? Everyone there knew what VeVe was at this Web3 meetup. Everyone knew. And a lot of them actually had VeVe stuff. And I was like, oh, you have VeVe stuff as well. Like, you know, like, are you still buying? Like, did you?
Okay.
Go for any recent drops? And they're like, oh, I haven't logged into it since like, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you got rugged there for a second, like last 10
Oh,
seconds. Probably need to repeat that one. Yeah. You're lagging out a little bit here. I think we have lost you now. Guys, can you still hear me? Is it only K that is lagging out or getting rugged? I think you're back, at least a little bit. Okay, so.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but your screen is a little bit laggy, and we just saw you running away. Yeah, you're gone. Just let me shoot a message here, and while that is he is blockier than a blockchain. We're just waiting for him to fix that thing. And while we're waiting, we can go a little bit over the chat here. OGVault says US people at YouTube too much fun. Yeah, I think K is getting DDoSed here or something, because right now probably we should spin this to the positive side now, because otherwise there's no chance here. Guys, send him your bandwidth. Yeah, guys, smash the like button for more bandwidth for K here. Randy has taken him down. Maybe, we don't know. Maybe it was Randy's whale friends there that are attacking K here. Yeah, this was scripted. Join us next time, part 2, for the rest of the FUD story, or the story. Yeah, the FUD I added there. Unfortunately, not scripted. I really wanted to. Yeah, so he's gone now, probably restarting his internet. But stay with me, guys. While you're doing that, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't liked it yet, like this video, because he's going to be back right now. There he is.
Okay. Now I'm good.
And then we remove the other one. There you are. So we have already heard conspiracy theories why this happened. That Randy tried to take you down, that this was scripted. So yeah. But you were saying, do you still remember what you were saying?
Yeah. Oh, yes, yeah. To another device, 1 second.
Okay.
It should be easier.
Sure, take your time.
Just give me oh, actually, I think it's okay now. I'll risk it. I think it's okay. Maybe the connection is back now.
It seems to be okay now.
So yeah. I think maybe it's just momentary. Yeah, London network's kind of bad today. But yeah, I was saying. So I went to a Web3 event, and everyone knew what VeVe was, right? And these guys, they'd not logged in since November of 2021, December 2021, and I asked them, why? And they were just like, I got into VeVe during the hype. I bought Todd Batmans. I bought some of the Ultraman stuff, some of the early Disney stuff, and then I just stopped going on it. I've still got all my stuff, but it's like a passive thing. Like, I'm not involved in it, but I just have it because they put money into loads of different NFT stuff. But they're more involved in the wider Web3 space. Maybe some of them are heavily into Bored Ape, Yuga stuff. Some of them are more heavily involved in Azuki. I met some people into Azuki. So they do actually know of VeVe, and they have the VeVe stuff, right? But these people, they were failed to be retained. And these people are all, from my experience, they were all very technically literate people. They understood blockchain, all the different types of blockchain, etc. And the truth of the fact is, speaking to these people, and Janie was there, she met these people as well. VeVe failed to retain them. That's just the truth. They were failed to be retained, and the question is why. And the question is because they didn't act on the same things that I'm criticizing and pointing out. And what's going to happen is, if they fail to act on these things, they're going to lose even more people but they're going to fail to retain new people. So all of a sudden your marketing becomes pointless. Like, why bring people on board to a platform where they're just going to leave next week? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, you want to retain them as well, right? So like I said, they still have opportunity to fix a lot of the things. They still have opportunity to, do what the community, what would be best for the community. Like, they can still do all of that stuff. It's not an issue. The issue is making. So this is one key point, right? Is something that I learned from a friend of mine, wannabe champ. He is now the host of Coin Bureau Trading. Really, really cool guy. I got him into VeVe as well. He doesn't really collect on VeVe anymore for the same reasons I pointed out. He was one of the people who were buying tons of Omi, but he stopped as well. He said to me that, a plan is only a dream without a process. And so right now, that's quite applicable to what VeVe is trying to do, right? Is a lot of their plan is like the Ready Player One vision. It's a dream without the right process in place. And I can at least see some idea of what that process should look like if they really truly want to, do best by the community and achieve this vision that the people invested into. But I'm not seeing enough of the problems that I know are going to be blockers in the future for achieving this vision. The simplest thing that I've yet to see is just, to just sort out the the whole testing infrastructure with the bugginess and etc. Because, like, let's be honest, right? Like, they put out an article explaining the new dev cycle, and they said the beta program is going to take 5 weeks to go from the start of beta to a full rollout. How long did MCP take? It took a lot longer than 5 weeks, and people only just got it, right? So that in itself is like, that tells the story. And if they want to avoid repeating this constantly over and over, this cycle of delays and people being frustrated and then leaving, especially when competitors come along and start doing stuff faster and to a higher level of quality, they need to take this stuff seriously and not just take it as like, oh, this is just FUD. Otherwise you're going to continue in this cycle and you're going to get overtaken. Because the other thing is, right, like, the people that I spoke to nowadays, and going back to the point that I said, what I like about VeVe, like, the technology is like, not the selling point for me. The token, like, it doesn't really do anything. It's the IP, but the IP is not exclusive. Like, I cannot stress that point enough. IP is not exclusive. Yeah. If you have money and if you have a good product, you can get IP.
We have just seen that, right?
Yeah, Cryptoys, the guy literally is like he's like, he's a dad who just did this thing on the side and he got a Disney license. Like, that in itself should tell you enough. So any of these big brands that want a Disney license, they could get it. But you got some guy who did this thing on the side with, and he's a dad as well. He's not even like, someone's like a fresh, single entrepreneur, like 100% focused on this kind of thing. Like, he just did it with his team and he got a Disney license and he's got Mattel as well. And he's got like other brands coming up. You're going to get overtaken by these guys because they now have capitalized on your one USP, which is your IP. So you need to focus on innovation and ensure that the platform is scalable so that if there is something new that you can do that no one else is doing, you have the ability to quickly pivot to that and do that. But right now, I don't see that in place, and that should be part of that process. Because if you don't embed that in part of your process, your vision is just going to become a dream. Your goal is just going to stay a dream. And that's the truth that people are going to have to accept. That's the trajectory right now.
I think you're absolutely right. But talking a little bit about what could turn this whole thing around, how you could establish yourself in the position to still be the market leader. Obviously, we know even though the IP is not exclusive, there's something to VeVe that made all of these licenses ramp up on VeVe. There must be something why they decided. There was a lot of speculation going on why they decided all to launch on VeVe. And maybe to give a little bit, before you answer what you think that is, to give a little bit of thought on the competition aspect is, I don't know if you guys know the book Anti-Fragile from Nassim Taleb. It's a really good book. I can recommend that. And the absence of stressors makes systems, people, organisms, everything that's basically living weak. And I think I see a chance here that once these competitors come into the game, that we have some kind of a Darwinistic driven evolution of here, because either it's now make or break. It's not you can bullshit your way out of every topic with a new license drop, with a new big announcement. But right now you have to fight to stay in the market lead, or at least to survive with a big market share. And now that some competitors are coming in, this could be the stimulus that VeVe needs to really focus on what's necessary.
Exactly. I mean, this is partly why, right? I mean, I've probably mentioned it, but I know a lot of people in licensing. Like, I've met a lot of people in licensing, and like, I think I mentioned I spoke to the brand person from Warner Brothers like not that long ago, and a lot of these competitors, they reach out to me very, very early on as well, because they can see I'm a credible person in the space. Apparently they think I'm credible, so I guess that's a good thing. But like, I think I showed you the message. Cryptoys reached out to me back in November of last year, and they kind of explained to me like, they've got Mattel, like they're developing whole kind of Cryptoys thing. They wanted to bring me on to collaborate with them. I actually, like at the time I was like going to Japan and I was too busy, and I like didn't really want to work with other people too much. Now, like, I'm not against it. But I was also doing some stuff for Quidd as well at the time, and McFarlane Digital, I was doing more stuff with them. So I just really I didn't have the time. But that being said, it's like, yeah, you're 100% right. Like, these absence of stressors, they do lead to weakness. And so I don't think like the team is like, I don't think they have a lack of stress, but I think it's just their response to that stress it's not the right approach. If it was me, like, some of the things that I can see obviously that they can change is, firstly, you need to do a 180-degree pivot on this whole trying to market to the mass market, like mainstream collector thing, because they like the truth of the fact is they just don't care about NFTs. Like, like it's not something you're gonna be able to force on them. It's not something that's gonna change this year. It's not something that's gonna probably change next year either. It's gonna be a very collective, incremental change, adoption. Like, you can't force adoption like that. If you can force adoption in like a year, then that's not really adoption. That's called a bubble. That you have to understand that point. Secondly, this whole platform, if you were here from the start, you know how actively it was marketed with, like, the Web3 fundamentals, the Web3 side. A lot of this community came in from Web3. Like, the large majority is here because of Web3. A lot of people came in from the token. A lot of people came in because they were interested in NFTs. Not many people came in because they were physical collectors and they just came across VeVe. Like, that's the truth of it. So you also have to like stop this whole pivoting away from the Web3 side. Really, really focus on Web3 marketing. Go back and partner up with these Web3 YouTubers like Cryptos R Us, or if you can't get them because they don't like VeVe anymore, then find other people. Reestablish your ambassador program, because I was told that there was going to be an ambassador program like a couple of years ago, and they were going to do really cool stuff, and they gave out the lights and the t-shirt, and then they stopped. Like, we never heard of this ambassador program again. So go back to that, revise that, implement that, because the influencers in your community, they can do a pretty good job of marketing the product for you. And when they were doing one's marketing, VeVe Market, like, everything was doing really well because they were doing free marketing basically. So, bring them on board for a proper program, reward them a bit. Don't just give out, like, stuff to your Discord moderators, give it like reward people who actually make the content that goes out to, the wider web. And then, I would also say focus on the tech product. Don't focus on like the damage control side of things. Just hiring people to calm people's frustrations or fundamental failures when it comes to.
I think you're having some connection issues again. Yeah. So we lost him the second time here. And we are going to bridge that with some community comments here until he comes back, and I will just let him know that we lost him. We lost you. So let's see. The VeVe demographic is quite old. Once the novelty has worn off, I can't see Vive's glorified showroom being that busy. Yeah. What I wanted to say, and he's already back. Yep. There you go. You should be back right now. Still looking a little bit laggy.
Okay, I'm checking if it's okay now. It might not.
Yeah. Okay. So while he's restarting, I think a point that I would bring up with all of you guys here in the chat is that the best thing that VeVe has right now is this community. I mean, you have to look at how many people are still talking about VeVe, even though if they are maybe not invested or collecting at the time. Oh, you are on the smartphone?
Oh, right. Yeah. I think this is probably easier because I was lagging on the maybe I don't know. I'm okay. I'm using my
this
mobile network.
This is like the cleanest appearance ever. So it has
okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll just stick to this then.
That's
yeah.
really
so.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how much when I got rugged, but basically the gist of what I was saying, right, is you get your influencers, you do a proper ambassador program, you hire like really good technical leadership, so your product doesn't keep screwing up, and that way people don't complain, and that way you don't get exploits that people are going to complain about either, and that's genuine like FUD that's going to be created. If you look at Immutable, they ship out so many products, but people aren't complaining about the product. Like they like the products because the development team, they've got such high level expertise because they've invested so much money in the tech. Like most of their spending is on the tech. It's not on the marketing or anything else. The marketing comes organically because the tech is so good. If you look on their online metrics on Social Blade, for example, they've just been constantly growing in terms of followers. Whereas, VeVe, for example, they've been dipping because these people who are maybe not very outspoken, maybe silent, they can clearly see some of the issues, and they're just like, oh, you know what, I don't care anymore. Like they've lost me now. And so if they focus on this stuff, they can retain these people and they can naturally, organically gain more people. And then, outside of that, I would say they need someone on the core public facing team who is extremely technically literate. Like they desperately need someone, because that person can be the one who can come in and join those spaces. And rather than the team saying silly stuff like, I don't think IMX has enforceable royalties, when they click, that's like their main selling point that they do. You're going to prevent these kind of things, because this is what people are then going to point out, and they're going to be like, the team is lying to us, or the team, they're incompetent because they don't even understand the technology that they're built on. Like they're basing business decisions off of their own lack of understanding. Like you can prevent this stuff from happening just by having like one good technically literate person on your core team. They can help advise you on your article so you don't get misinformation. They can help advise on your your cliff notes or whatever that you're speaking on, so that they can point out, hey, maybe you shouldn't say this is engine agnostic. Maybe it'll be better just to say it's multi-platform, because then people, they don't get confused and they don't like start questioning what you're trying to do. But they don't have that. So that's an area that, again, they need to improve on. And then what else? Yeah, they need to like be open to public questions again once they get someone who's extremely technically literate on board, because I think this is the reason why they partly stopped, is because a lot of the questions, they were too difficult for the main team to answer straight away. Like they just didn't have to answer because it was quite technically in depth. And so a lot of the times the answers were like quite fluffy. Like they're like, we need to get back to you on this, but we're doing X, Y, and Z, but it didn't really answer the question. So, they need to really think about, what they're going to say, and they need someone on board who can help advise them on that side of things. Because they have a legal advisor, right? So they don't say something stupid that's going to get them in trouble legally, but they don't have like a technical advisor who, really they should have if they're a tech company in a tech space and they're getting asked very technical questions. And then they need to involve experts in certain areas more. Like, for example, when they involve Silicon Secure on the addition size of the bat signal, like that drop sold out. And I think that one, the addition size and the pricing was really good. I didn't complain about that one. No one really complained about it. It did well. So if there are people who are actually, fans of a certain IP, they need to connect with these people and kind of bring them on board, like, for a one-off kind of thing, maybe give them a collectible as a reward from that drop. But that way, you get some good kind of feedback, and you also get like, people more engaged and involved, especially if someone from the community that they know kind of contributed as well. And then outside of that, like, everything else can just be improved on with improvements in tech. Like in-app communications, they said 2.5 million people, and they were running Twitter Spaces with like a couple hundred people in there. It's like, okay, so you're telling us information to a couple hundred people, but what about the other 2.4999 million people that are using the app apparently? Like, why are they not listening to this stuff? That's important. Like, if you have in-app communications, all 2.5 million of those people that apparently have the app, they're all going to get the news if you have that in-app communication. So why not do that? I mean, Quidd does that, right?
I think they have, from my perspective as non-technical guy, there are two big things to leverage right now that they both have. They have contact to big IP and to top-notch people in these houses. So what I don't understand is, because everyone who has worked in a company that has ties to other companies knows that you can, for example, ask certain departments in that other company for help. They don't have to build for you, but you can ask, hey, do you know someone who's looking for a job? We're paying XYZ and need someone qualified. The other thing is, for mass marketing, if you have such good exclusive relationships to Disney, why not take someone like even a half a department on for a time to make the app resilient, and then just roll ads on Disney Plus to like mainstream users, right? So I mean, there might be some legal issues why this, or some things that they only want to do that in the bull run, but you could leverage your own licensors to do something for you and to do marketing for you. And the second thing is, look at this community. We are like talking for 2 hours. 70 people are following us just on this channel. Probably parallel, My Collectibles is talking somewhere about comics, and probably parallel Randy is saying hello to Dashi somewhere, and so on. So this community is absolutely wild, active, a lot of technically literate people, a lot of people with sharing the vision, giving good ideas, and so on. Why not leverage also this community to just get a pulse of what people want right now, and maybe bring that or roll that out with priority, so that people, for example, I stopped completely recommending VeVe to anyone in my field. But when I was bullish on VeVe, more bullish, let's say, I brought like 10 people into VeVe. I wouldn't do that today. And I think if they would bring me back into the sentiment of doing that, this could also accelerate the onboarding on VeVe.
I mean, that's a very good point, because I've stopped recommending VeVe to people as well, because at the time I was recommending it to everyone, and the people who I did recommend it to, not a single one of them uses VeVe anymore. And it's not because I told them to stop using it. It's just because when I brought them on board, I was telling them, they're going to have like these Disney collectibles. They're going to be in this metaverse called VeVeverse. They say that, like with the AR, you have like, to quote something that Reese said, he said, you have like Batman scaling walls and jumping off your desk and stuff. You're going to have like, don't worry, like we're going to have interoperability, so you can move it to your own wallet. It's not going to be stuck on VeVe forever, to the people who cared about that stuff. And then, after a year, like none of that stuff happened. Literally none of that stuff happened. And so all those people, they're just like, this company didn't do any of the stuff that I thought they were going to do.
The market isn't like very good right now either in terms of like, the pricing. Because at the time when lots of people were making money, I guess a lot of people didn't actually care too much about the features. But they still wanted them. But since it's been so long and the market is also down, they're just like, why am I spending my time on this? And even like the hardcore fans, because I mean, I'm a fan of some of the stuff on VeVe. Like, I really like the Tokidoki stuff, and I still got all my Tokidoki stuff, but I don't like really spend time like interacting with it because it's very limited in what you can do. Like, this is why, I said before that people said I was fudding. I said Disney's going to go elsewhere, and they're like, oh no, why would they go elsewhere? Because VeVe's making them so much money. Look how many drops VeVe does for Disney. Look how much money they make. Look at the transactions. They made $500,000 in like 2 seconds today. Why would they go elsewhere? And they've gone elsewhere, and not just elsewhere, but these Disney collectibles on Cryptoys, they're gamified. You can actually see like how some of the gaming implementations work. Like your characters, you can level them up, you play with them, like you play as them. Like, it's quite cool. And that is why I'm going to personally, engage with the Cryptoys platform, because they've done something that's actually I think I would have fun with, like something to do, right? That's the main thing is VeVe. And this is even FUD, like this is just my opinion, right? But it's just honestly, it's a boring platform because there's nothing to do right now. Like, unless you want to sit there and it, which I never really did anyway.
Yeah.
There's limited like enjoyment you can have taking AR pictures. I'll still take AR pictures when there's like my Tokidoki would look pretty cool. I'll do that, but that's like a 5-second thing, right? It's not something see me going back constantly for hours on end. I don't really on the VeVe votes anyway. Maybe on the VeVe vote for a bit.
You're just one thing. Your sound is a little bit breaking, maybe because of the cable. Here. So it's just the last seconds, but maybe the cable microphone is just tied up in another cable, and
it is,
maybe doing some breaking noises there. But
fix that.
So with regards to that, I think we all agree here that if we would have more to do in the app and more fun playing with the collectibles in the app, then there would be already a reason based on the gamification and whatever you can do in the app to spend more time, more money, more whatever on the app. Now, they came out with a craft to burn mechanic right now, or at least they said that the burning for this event is going to start, I think, tomorrow. No, it's actually it's past midnight here, so on the 6th, where we can burn to craft a soul stone, which then allows us to craft a gauntlet, which then is involved with a drop and so on. So there is something at least happening that goes beyond what we had right now. How do you see this? Do you think that's a step in the right direction, or is that just, a one-time event and they go back to old patterns?
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I think so. Let's try.
Cool. Good.
No, it's still breaking. It's still breaking.
Okay, I'm gonna use the normal mic. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. 1 sec. Let me change the speakers because I think the audio's gone. Let's see. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I've lost the audio. 1 sec.
Conviction and patience are important keys to success, and I have both. That's great, Crazy Dan.
Oh, one sec. I'm just gonna rejoin.
Yep. I believe the bots are owned by VeVe to manipulate drops and control secondary floors. That's something that's really hard to prove, but it's certainly not out of the picture, right? There's for sure a ton of wash trading going on the app. And if that's the case and it's a ton, then the real, let's say, trading back and forth is, it is a minor share then, right?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect.
Okay,
I was
perfect. Yeah,
reading-
no weird mic.
Yeah.
So crafting and burning. So it's good that they've implemented this, because this is a feature that, Hero came out with. And actually, you know what? This is a good chance to kind of explain why I say the things I do, right? So Hero is only like, I'm clipping in and out of existence. Yeah. Hero is kind of like exactly what I was trying to warn against, right? Because Hero is only 1 year old as a platform. So you would expect Hero to have done less in this time. You would expect them to still be kind of finding their feet, just releasing features. But Hero came out quite quick. They came out with interoperability, in-app messaging, in-app trading, the use of crypto, interoperability, both layer 2 on IMX and layer 1 with Ethereum. They came out with burning and crafting recently. And you know what? I'm going to give them a public congratulations, because when they rolled it out, and this is even like, they've never paid me a penny, right, by the way, but they rolled out that feature and there were no weird bugs and things, right? It just worked. Like, they did it and it worked and people were happy. So, that, and the thing is, they didn't do a beta test either. They didn't roll it out to like 10 people, then 20 people, then 1,000. They just rolled it. They just turned it on for everyone, and everyone had it, and it worked, and it didn't break, and it didn't cause all sorts of weird bugs. So that is extremely, extremely impressive. The fact that a project that was less than a year in to being publicly, used, the fact that they did that, that is really, really amazing. So the thing is, VeVe's burning system, that's coming out after Hero. So now they're kind of chasing Hero, right? And Heroes has a really good trading system as well, where you can bulk trade for like a different number of collectibles. It's not like a one-to-one trade. You can trade 2 of one thing for 1 of the other thing. And that's something that was advertised on VeVe early on. And that's part of the reason why I got in, is because, part of collecting is trading, right? And I would have expected trading to be in the app by now, but they, even transfers, they've just removed it. So it's like the app's gone kind of backwards. So the problem is, a lot of these competitors, because they're essentially doing really, really well on that technical side, they're going to be more agile and they're going to be able to release these features that people want a lot quicker. And so VeVe is going to end up chasing them rather than everyone else chasing VeVe. And so if VeVe is now chasing other people, where is the lead now? Where's that, VeVe is ahead of everyone sentiment? Like, because they're not going to be ahead of everyone. Like, I don't consider them ahead of everyone anymore, because now they're actually chasing other people in terms of the features. So with the burning and crafting, like, it's really, really good that they've now rolled that out. And I would like to see that feature rolled out and work without any major issues. If they can pull that off, then I think, at least me, I'll be a bit more bullish on VeVe, because that to me signifies that they can roll out a feature, it works, it doesn't cause any issues, it doesn't blow up, and that's all good. So that would be a positive indicator. And then from that, I could then expect the next feature to roll out to possibly be more positive as well. Mm-hmm. It would work. And then, from there, I could be like, okay, maybe now VeVe's delivery is uptrending. It's not, just constantly the same cycle again and again. And from there, I think a lot of people would actually come back to the platform over time, because people will forget about this phase where everything, wasn't like that great, and they'll just, see what's good. I think a lot of people, they still like the vision. They love the vision, but it's just the execution isn't the best. So if they can execute and prove that they can, then that would be good. But to the point of the crafting and burning, I think that's a very much needed mechanic. It's going to help with the scarcity in the market. It's going to give people something to do. It's going to, it's a fun thing to do. When it came on Hero, everyone loved it. Like, everyone loved crafting because it adds an element of randomness, competitiveness. It gamifies it a little bit. So for VeVe, I think that's very much needed. It's going to give people something, at least something else to do. And that's a positive thing in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I didn't know, because I'm not on Hero at all. I didn't know that they actually got it from there, but that actually proves our point from before, that the little stressors are increasing, and maybe they can make VeVe more resilient, more, let's say, get VeVe even thriving. And this is the perfect time for that, because if others are building and then they can roll out something that others have already done, maybe they are not the leader in this one, but I still think if we look at the massive amounts of Disney collectibles, the commitment of Disney, Lamborghini, the brands, then we can still say the amount of big licenses that they still have and rolling out right now make them somewhat a leader in the space in that sense. But technology-wise, they're lagging behind, running behind. Which brings me to the final point. So you said if they can pull this off smoothly, would you think like minor issues, like for example a number 30 gauntlet mint happening, even though it shouldn't be, that wouldn't be like a big problem in your opinion? Or is that already like, oh, you fucked up, it's not going very good? Or do you think more about something like completely broken, they have to roll back everything and do it again? Or how do you think, like what would be like the acceptable failure rate in that
acceptable? Yeah, so that's a very, very good question. So acceptable failures I would consider are like these non-transient issues, right? So issues that don't result as a result of poor software design. So anything that doesn't result as a result, like doesn't happen due to poor software design, that is acceptable. So for example, let's say, the system gets overloaded because too many people are using it, and maybe a transaction gets stuck. That's acceptable, right? That's just a normal, too many people are using it. That's something that isn't to do with the design of the product. It's to do with just too many people using it, and that's just a normal internet thing, right? If, for example, someone goes and mints a sub 40 when a public person should not be allowed to, then clearly you didn't test for that before you released it publicly. And something like that, where you should prevent people from minting sub 40s because you've been doing it this whole time anyway. If you don't test for that with this crafting burning system, right, then that just goes to show that there's either terrible miscommunication in your company or you're terrible testing. One of the two. Could be both, who knows? But that is not acceptable. So if, for example, someone crafts something and the system burns their collectibles and it doesn't give them the new collectible, and that was just due to some screw up in their testing, then yeah, that's not acceptable. But if the app just logs them out when they're crafting and it's annoying, they have to log back in, but that's like that's the a bug with the app, maybe processing too many things at one time, like I don't know, like whatever can cause it, then that's fine. Like I wouldn't like complain about it. I'd be like mildly annoyed, but I wouldn't like say this is something you have to fix. I'd be like, yeah, well, it is something you have to fix, but I wouldn't be like, this is gonna really terribly negatively impact the app. So it's all about things that are done due to poor design versus things that just will naturally happen. Yeah, that's I can't really explain it any more than that.
I think we get the point, and so I will make a prediction here. I think someone will find an exploit and use the soulstone on a collectible that is supposed to disappear. I bet there are 2 to 3 people in this app. They will try out to use that on whatever other collectible, but maybe that's not even possible, because I think from the design that they have put out, you click on the soulstone and then it just shows you a list of eligible collectibles. You cannot go through your collection and
I wouldn't be surprised, because this is one of the bugs that I pointed out. When they released the web app, right, with a crypto pay-in, one of the really weird bugs that I saw, and I was just like, why is this even here, was when you go and select crypto pay-in, it gives you the option of like Ethereum, like what else, Bitcoin, I can't remember what else was on there as an option. And then it gives you the option of fiat on a crypto pay-in option. Like, so okay. I was like, why is this even here? And so I clicked it, and the entire web app just like spazzed out. and through errors. And I was like, obviously this isn't an illegible transfer type. You can't use fiat with crypto addresses. So why is this even there? And so I reported it to them and they removed it. But the fact that that was even there as an option in the first place, it's like, why did no one
see this? Yeah.
Like, why did no one question? Like, so in software engineering, right, there's a process of like essentially, clarifying and specifying all the features that you want inside a piece of work that you're doing. And someone definitely should have put in, this is what we want on our list of crypto paying. We want Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc., etc. And either the person on the business side thought, yes, let's add fiat again to a crypto paying option, even though we already have the fiat option. And so the developers just did it, or the developers didn't read the requirements properly. But even if they didn't, right, there's a process where you peer review each other's work and you make sure that it works properly. And probably you should demo it as well before it goes live, so that people are happy. And so that to me tells me that either the person who's like, their product analyst guy, whoever, put it in there incorrectly and no one pointed it out, or the developer put it in there because they didn't follow the requirements properly, and the other developers who peer reviewed it didn't point it out, or like it doesn't make sense to me. Like something like that. That's a design flaw that you include fiat pay-in in a crypto pay-in option. So obviously that's gonna, the app is gonna blow up if you do something like that. So I pointed it out straight away, and they removed it. But it's just the fact that that was there. Like that's not a little bug. That's just a design flaw. And so that's the kind of stuff where I see, and I'm like, you're not inspiring confidence in me to like trust you to deliver on the vision I thought you were going to deliver on. Like, if you like, again, it goes back to the point where it's like, I'm in this project because I was sold on this vision of Ready Player One, and like Batman scaling walls, and like all the other cool stuff that they spoke about, right? But it's these small things that not even small things. It's like just like the practice is not there to a good standard that I can see, and I'm still waiting for that to the point where I can be like, oh yeah, VeVe is always delivering really good features. They've run quite smoothly. Every 2 weeks they got something new coming out. Like they're not at that stage yet. When they're at that stage, then I'd feel more confident. But it's like this kind of stuff. When I see it, I'm like, yeah, like yeah, it's the same thing still going on. So I'm waiting for them to just prove me wrong. I'm waiting for them to show me that they can deliver stuff to a good level consistently, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm more bullish again.
The good thing is that we have now this gauntlet whole thing coming out to really see how good they can deliver on this. So for us, it's just something where we do not have to always rant about whatever comment on another live stream. So we can really see, okay, burning, check, done, without any problems. Now, drop and crafting and so on, how did that go? Yeah, on that note, I 100% agree with you, and we'll probably revisit that on Twitter and everywhere else, and closely monitor that. One little question here from the community, quickly answerable if you want, is how much OMI tokens do you hold? Do you still hold? Have you offloaded all? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I had, I think I had like 60 million tokens at one point. I was going for 100 million, but then that when I came back from Japan, I was basically, I wasn't like impressed with them saying MCP was weeks away, not months, and then Dan saying it was going to be a good Christmas present. So I was like, okay. And they were like there wasn't even beta for MCP at that point. So I was like, what's going on? And then the OMI token was like kind of not doing very well, and I wasn't seeing the progress. And then like I said, I work with I know a lot of people in licensing, and I work with a lot of licensor based projects as well. Not VeVe, and I can see. I'm privileged enough to kind of see the progress being made in this space, and that's partly why I'm like, what else are you going to do in terms of VeVe to innovate and make sure you can stand out in the market? Because I'm not seeing enough. And, I just wasn't seeing enough. And so I sold off like, a chunk of tokens at like a 50% loss. And then I sold off like some more, like, when I saw, like, I really don't think they're going to, it was when they announced Omi utility was now changing again to some loyalty thing. I was like, that is not on. Like, you can't keep changing Omi utility again and again. Like, it doesn't have any utility, firstly. It doesn't do anything, but it's like, you're still changing it. Like, people, it's completely different now to what people initially bought it for. Like, it's a different, like, it's like buying a cheeseburger and you get given a hot dog. It's like, it's not the same thing. And so now I'm like, Omi just doesn't have that. Like, to me, I thought Omi was going to be some exclusive token that gives you exclusive benefits, but it seems like it's just an alternative to MCP now with this loyalty program. And they still haven't actually given us the details of this loyalty program when they said, that those details were going to drop #soon. So I'm still waiting to find out exactly what it is Omi does. Is it just like an alternative to MCP? Is there anything exclusive still? Like the ticket system, they said it's still there, but it's fine if the ticket system is there, but it needs to be somewhat exclusive. If you still get the same benefits with the ticket system as you do with MCP points, it's like, what's the point? Why are people going to buy Omi and go out of their way buying Omi when they get the same thing holding collectibles, which are more fun than holding the token anyway? Like that kind of stuff, that led me to sell off more of my tokens. So, like I sold off my Omi at a 50% loss, but I'm actually break even because, I'm sure people have seen how many gems I have on VeVe, because, and this goes back to the point, is there were so many people out there saying, why are you selling VeVe stuff at the bottom? This is like paper-handed stuff. When I was selling last year, July, that was clearly not the bottom of the market, because if I held, I'd be down like another 60%. So, and I still think right now still isn't the bottom of the market, but, people are going to say that's FUDDing. But that's just, the truth of it, because I believe the S&P 500, that's going to tank horribly badly. Statistics are showing that the rate of the likelihood of recession in the US and the UK is like above 50% now for both of those countries, and those are like two big powerhouses when it comes to VeVe's user market, the US and Europe overall. They don't have too many Asian users at the moment, which are like less likely to suffer from a bad recession, but I still believe that we haven't had true capitulation yet. And when that happens, when we get a scenario where, and I don't believe the people saying that Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million or whatever, like right now, like people can barely afford mortgages and stuff, like, rates are like pumping badly. And so I think we need to go through a bad capitulation. And when that happens, like VeVe is not going to do, people aren't going to prioritize buying digital toys in a recession. I can tell you that, right? They're not going to be buying Omi tokens in a recession. I can tell you that. Like this stuff, it only pumps when the economy is doing well and when there's a lot of money being printed. So, like there's still a far, far way down to go, like in that scenario, which I think is a very likely scenario. So right now, just to answer the question, I've got like 10% of my original bag size. I think I've got like 6 or 7 million tokens. Like I know I've got them across like MetaMask, and I think I left some on an exchange, like a few million, just to like trade. But yeah, like I don't hold as much as I did before. I still got skin in the game because if I've got like 6-7 million Omi tokens, that's still a decent amount for me to use in the VeVeverse and like stake with and whatnot. And I'll buy more. They can prove that they can do more. But again, like the charts are telling me that Omi is going to go lower. I was saying Omi was going to go lower in the 000, like 00085s, like around there, because I was saying that the charts are telling me that there isn't really a bottom confirmed right now. Like it's like catching falling knives. Like you're just going to buy something and it's going to keep going lower. You're going to buy it, it's going to keep going lower. Like I need confirmation as someone who like trades and looks at charts. I need to confirm that a bottom is in, because I don't care about timing the perfect bottom. I just want to catch it on the way up. Like I'd rather have a confirmed, if we're talking about profit, I'd rather have confirmed 50% profit than risk making 80%, but then also have a high risk of, dropping another 80% in what I buy. Like I'm looking for low risk, decent return. I'm not looking for like moonshot returns here, because this is something that Al Brooks, he's a physician and he's a full-time trader. He's like a really, really big personality in the trading space. A lot of successful traders know him. He says that 80% of reversals will fail, statistically speaking. So statistically, if you're trying to catch the bottom, you're going to fail like 80% of the time. So I do not want to, be out there risking a significant amount of money, especially when the macro is this bad. I might risk it a bit more if the macro is looking good, but the macro is looking bad. 8% of reversals fail. I'm not going to sit here catching falling knives. I'd rather wait. And if it goes up, I don't care. I've still got some tokens and I'm happy for the people who are buying at the bottom if it goes up. But likelihood to me looks like it's going down. And I also say that because on Coin Law, you can actually see the complete OMI chart, not just the one that's on CoinGecko. And I've shared that with you guys, right? And OMI is still up massively. Like it's, the bottom for OMI was like 5 zeros or something. So it's nowhere near a bottom right now. It's still up like 100x or something stupid. Or maybe it was at 5 zeros. Maybe it was like really low 4 zeros. I can't remember. But, like it's still up a lot, whereas a lot of tokens are actually down below their ICO price. So OMI can actually still go up. And blockchain Rick, he said OMI is actually relative to the price on the full chart. OMI is still actually expensive for him. And so that's why I'm not in a rush to buy any. And, I'm holding a decent sized bag, I would say, for my risk tolerance. And so, if they roll out OMI utility and stuff, I'm like, okay, I've got some tokens I can use and I'll buy some more tokens if I need to. But yeah, apart from that, like I'm not like as hardcore on OMI as I was before. I'm more into projects in the Web3 gaming space and also layer 2s and also AI actually. I like AI stuff and things like AR Weave where they're solving a genuine problem, stuff like that. Like it's not a meme coin. Like I'm not opposed to buying meme coins. I think they're fun to. I bought Gary Gensler token like for a low, because Gary Gensler is literally a meme himself. But like I wouldn't advise going hardcore on one token because then you're gonna your like mental stability is gonna be affected, right? You're gonna be you're emotionally invested at that point, and I'm not like I don't like that because if I'm partly invested in one project and it doesn't do well, it's fine. I've got like other projects I can like, focus my time on. If it's just one project, then that's just going to consume me. And I've been in that position and I don't like being in that position. So, it's just a rule of mine. Like I don't go hard on any one thing because, like your risk is just way too high when you do that.
I want to lose some words on the assessment of the crisis because I see your scenario totally because obviously I'm living in Europe and I'm not blind on what's happening right now with regards to inflation and European Central Bank lagging behind. The bird has also something to say here, lagging behind with the rate hikes. Second appearance of Bird on this channel. And the other scenario that I see is that we see that right now, so that the Fed is increasing rates still, and the economy is screaming it's too much. Banks failing left and right. I mean, yesterday we had the next bank going under with the PacWest. I think there is a point where probably we see an unexpected and unannounced pivot where they just kicking down the can of inflation and money printer to just ride the dead horse a little bit more. And when that happens, I believe that, and probably this is going to happen somewhere in the end of this year when you have not only in France, but in other countries, some riots that they are just trying to do quantitative easing again, just to appease the whole situation a little bit. And that's where you probably see the next run, bull run in crypto, in my opinion, conveniently with the 4-year cycle and everything else is leading into the halving with lowering rates, printing money, injections into the economy and so on. But obviously, both scenarios are on the table, as you said, and for Ecomi, it's absolutely. If you go to CoinLore, as you said, it's absolutely crazy if you imagine that some whales that really loaded up at the very bottom are like up 20x still on these levels. There's must be also a reason on the other hand why they didn't sell off, and that's probably because there's not enough liquidity, because there's no exchanges, which is a good protection right now for the token being completely sold off to I don't know whom. Yeah. But I'd say we are 2.5 hours already in. I'm sorry for everyone's question that we didn't show or respond here in the chat. I think we need to do this again in a couple of months to review how we're doing, also with regards to the technical development and so on. So I would say at this point, do you have any last words, let's say, that you wanted to give here to the community as well? I mean, there were people positive, negative, also throwing things in your face. So do you have any last words?
Yeah, sure. I would say, now is a very critical time for the markets. Don't be gaslit by people, firstly, who say, any investment is sound, is fine. They'll throw all these dumb reasons at you, like, the devs have diamond hands, or like, this project is too good to fail, or like, this project or this asset is like recession proof. Like, don't listen to any of that stuff. That's just gaslighting. They're just trying to use you as exit liquidity. Firstly, that's the truth people need to hear. So that's that's first point. Try not to focus on just one viewpoint. Like, I try and keep my circle with both people who are highly optimistic as well as people who are highly pessimistic, so I can get both viewpoints. And for that reason, that's why I've generally, I've been able to make decent decisions, like, at least the past year or so. I made that decision to liquidate a lot of my VeVe stuff like last summer, because I could, I spoke to people like God's Entry who explained the markets to me properly. I spoke to, other people in other projects as well, seeing what they're doing. Like, all those reasons, like, I was able to add that data into my evaluation. So I would say, don't be that type of person who just goes blocks every single person who says something negative about a project that you like. So sometimes those negative things that they're saying probably have some truth in them. Like, I understand some people just fud to say something sucks because that's all they want to do. But if someone out there says something you don't like, but it's like, they've got genuine supporting points, at least try and like question them on it and understand, like, read more into the stuff that they're sharing, because you might change your opinion. It's like they've said, there's studies out there where someone who is flexible about changing their opinion, it's like a sign of intelligence. So, you want to like basically just try and be an intelligent person, really. Like, don't be stubborn with your viewpoint. Don't ignore everything just because you don't want to be proven wrong. Like, it's fine to be wrong. It's better to be, like wrong, but understanding why you're wrong than just continuing to be wrong, even though, like the data and everything else is, saying otherwise. So yeah, those are the main things. I can show you some stuff I've got.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
I've
do
got
it.
like
Besides the VeVe logo, some Funko.
what, like, I don't know if you've seen this. This was like a card that got sent from Hero. They gave out like rewards to collectors, and I've got like one of the Batman black and whites from McFarlane. Keep like a lot of Funkos. I've got like all these Gundam boxes actually here. I need to move them. I've got like a comic up there that I got from Sleeping Comics.
Nice.
I've got my bird there.
That's not, the bird is not a collectible.
Yeah, the bird kind of like, he wants to be a collectible.
What bird is that, by the way? Is that like a chicken?
Oh, it's a button quail. So it's like a miniature version of a quail. Okay. Yeah, I collect a lot of Gundams, as you can see.
Damn.
Yeah, so kind of collect a lot of these. I've got like a lot of Dragon Ball stuff. I've got like tons of like Demon Slayer stuff as well.
Will you be participating in the drop if they drop Dragon Ball?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't care where it is, I'll buy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I keep like, I've got like these old Pokemon gold cards that they did like from Burger King. Like I saw them and I was like, you know, I need to buy these back. Like these are quite cool. And then these are really cool. Like I don't know if you've seen these.
That sounds that looks really.
This is a statue I got at the Pokemon European Championships. The Latios.
Oh yeah, Lugia or what is it?
Latios and Latias.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's quite cool.
So I was after the first 150 Pokemon plus the next generation, I was out as a child, and then that's the only ones I know the names.
Oh yeah, I've got like I keep these in my room. These are technically, well, they're my girlfriend's, but what you can see, I've got.
Oh, yeah. Now I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, like this thing is huge, right? Literally massive. And then there's like there's a pit flop here too, which is like equally massive. Like, you know, like if I stand, they come up to like my waist. And then I've got like
so that's like a collector's room.
Yeah, literally. And then I've got like I don't know. This is like kind of weird for people, but I've got like a master's in science. I've got like a bachelor's in pharmacology, and I was like a teacher as well. So I've got like I just keep that there. But the thing is, I work as a software engineer, so I don't use any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's like me.
So not directly anyway, but yeah.
Business administration. I work in sales. I don't use anything that I used in my business administration studies. But yeah, great, awesome collection. So guys, you can see real collector here wanting to have a collectibles app in the digital space thrive. And guys, I think everyone can say, no matter if you are agreeing with what Kay says on Twitter or not, it's worth following, looking at the stuff that he is saying, building your own opinion, and then maybe you move on. If someone is not your opinion, but you still stick to what you believe because you think you have the better facts, then shouldn't be a point of being angry, right? So if someone comes to me and says the earth is flat, then I can just say I climb on a mountain and I see the earth bending and curving. I don't have to be mad with the person that claims something, right? On the other hand, if someone shows me some pretty convincing facts of something else, like this object is round, then I can look at that and say, okay, yeah, that's in neither case I would be angry, right? So there is a reason why people are angry, and if you are angry at me or Kay or someone else, or even maybe also there are people that are angry with the positive one, the ever positive ones, right?
Yeah.
You always.
I think one thing I've seen, right, is Kyle Wilson. I'm gonna publicly name him, right? He's done so much for this Web3 space, like so much. Like he's been making free content for ages. He's been educating people on other stuff. He's been helping people, you know, understand, you know, how to set up wallets and how blockchain works, how to safeguard your crypto. He's a co-host with Paul Barron now. And he's a really nice guy to talk to, right? He's done so much stuff for the space, and I've seen people publicly attack him just because he said some stuff that's factually everything he said was correct. He was talking about IMX and their enforceable royalties. He was trying to explain that IMX offers enforceable royalties, and he was also explaining the whole difference between layer 2 IMX and layer 1 ETH. But some people thought he was fudding, and it's fine if you don't understand what he's saying and you need more information. But they were publicly attacking his character like it's a personal attack, not just a disagreement with his information and that kind of stuff, right? Like, firstly, that's not okay. And secondly, if people do that to me, right, like I'm probably going to mock them and block them, but that actually makes me more motivated to actually talk about the topic. I don't know if people know that about me, but if people attack me over something I'm doing, which I know is like not really a serious thing, I'm going to do it more. So for example, I used to eat KFC on live streams, and to me, that's not like a serious thing, but some people got really annoyed by it, and they were like, you know, they were like really offended. So what did I do? I just started doing it every stream.
Yeah.
Because I don't really care. But
you're doing the inverse, like
yeah, exactly.
inverse K.
I'll just do it more than like, because it's not a serious thing. Like, it's not that deep. But yeah, like attacking people for just not liking if someone, it's such a weird thing, right? It's like you attack someone because they don't like buying the same digital toys as you, or they don't like buying the same magical token as you. It's like, it's fine. Like if they don't like it, and well, if not that they don't like it, if they have criticisms about it, that's fine. Like, you don't need to like attack their character or attack them personally, because that's not disproving what they're saying. Like, come back with points that disprove what they're saying. Like, that's what I like to read, because maybe I might change my opinion if I see that. But if I see you just attacking the person, then straight away I know that person has won, because you don't have an argument, you just have a personal attack. And I know for a fact that everything Kyle says about these topics, like, he's done his research, he's done his due diligence. He's the one who told me about Arweave. Like, he knows about the challenges with on-chain storage. So like, Kyle knows more about this stuff than like most people have probably encountered in this space, because he's put in the work, and he continues to put in the work. And I'm happy to help people with learning, as long as they're willing to put in the work with learning. Like, I'm not going to spoon feed them like every time, because I don't have the time for that. And I don't really like, and that's the type of people I don't like, is people just want to be spoon fed. Like, again, I go back to the point where I like helping people for free if they're ambitious, motivated people who, generally have good character. Those are the type of people who I'm happy to help for free. And there's plenty of people in the community like that I've continued to help for free. So yeah, that's the type of person I am.
Yeah, and I think it's great, because then we don't have to worry that you're going away with your realism criticism anytime soon, because when people attack you, you're getting, like VeVe, hopefully stronger by the day. And yeah, so is Kyle, obviously. Awesome content that he's putting out, awesome knowledge, and many other people in the community as well. Little question here from LK. Did you ever get any answers for the Turkey relief you were pushing?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So that's another thing, right, is Ali, he's a friend of mine, right? He's a really nice guy. And unfortunately, he had family who were affected in the earthquake in Turkey. Like, some of them passed away. And the VeVe team, I know that they saw that because they replied to him. They sent him the best wishes and everything. And when asked about it, they said they were going to look into it, because I know that they do charitable things, right? Like, look at Rewind Collective. That was all about charitable stuff for the LGBT community. And then if you look at Run English, they did the fundraising for Ukraine, because Ukraine got into the war with Russia, and they did it very quickly. Like, it was 48 hours and we had a new drop to raise money for Ukraine. And so when they said, hey, we're going to look into doing something for this, I was like, oh, okay, like, let's go. I'm happy to support that. Like, I haven't bought any collectibles in a while, but I'll buy that, because that's like part of the metaverse and this vision, right, is about connecting with people on a social level. And part of connecting is like sharing a message, right? So if in my metaverse space, I've got a collectible that represents Turkey and this event that took place, people can see that, and then people can ask questions about that. People can learn about what happened in Turkey. And then that helps to propagate the message to other people, right? And when you get that message out to other people, that's how you get a movement. That's how you get people to support you. So some people, like, firstly, I kept asking them about this, like, and I really wanted them to do something with Simone Legno, like a Tokidoki thing, because Simone, I know he's very open to this kind of stuff, because he's worked with a lot of other platforms outside of VeVe. He's done the Binance Tokidokis, and he's also their first partner. And the thing is, with the Tokidoki stuff, it's not complex. They're very simple models. They can just reskin a unicorn with a turkey flag or something and sell that. Like, I buy like 10 of them, make a turkey unicorno space, but like, just anything would have done, right? Because the point is, firstly, some people are like, if you care about Turkey, why don't you donate yourself? Like, firstly, like, yeah, that's fine, like, obviously, but that's not the point. The point is the company said they were going to look into it, but we never got told what was the outcome of them looking into it. Like, because it was 2 months later and they hadn't really done anything. So did they just decide they don't want to do it, or did they decide, it doesn't fit in with their schedule? Like, I would have liked to have known what was the result of you looking into it, firstly, because you said you were going to look into it. And people got happy by that. Ali, he told some of his family that VeVe was going to do something because they said they were looking into it. And now his family, his family that got into VeVe and his friends and stuff, like, now they find out, oh, VeVe didn't do something. So now it's like, like, what's going on? Like, was there a reason? Because when you do stuff like that, and you don't deliver, or you don't even give a reason for, or an explanation of what's happening next, then people lose faith in you and they lose trust in you. They're like, you're just going to say stuff to virtue signal and you're not going to deliver on it because that's just what you're doing, right? That's the impression people are going to get if you do stuff like that. That's why I really wanted to know, like, what was the outcome of your discussions? Because you said you were going to discuss this and look into it. Now, secondly, like, on the metaverse point of view, like with the collectibles, it would have been very good to, like, yes, people can donate money, but that's not the point. The point is VeVe has the tools and the power and the vision to create this platform which people can connect to other people with using digital collectibles and digital content. So I want to have digital content related to Turkey on their platform so other people can see it in the future and other people can learn about this movement. Me sending Turkey like $100 is not going to achieve that. But VeVe has the platform to do that, which is why, why I asked about this, but also I would like to know what the outcome was, but I never really got an answer for any of that. It just, like, I just got ignored, basically.
It's one of the chances that have been left on the table, because if you can do good and appeal to another community at the same time without appealing to the community being the main perspective, helping people, main perspective, getting more people to know about this, and to know about an easy way on a smartphone app to participate in a charitable event. I don't know, even maybe the guy giving the guy a 1% fee or whatever who designed the collectible, who cares, right? But in the end, I think it's one of these chances that have not been taken, because you would also generate on the side articles that are written about this. Because if you put out, let's say, 10,000 collectibles at a $10 price point or so, you would create an amount that passes many other donation amounts that are being collected somewhere else. And you would just be over the articles while doing something good and bringing out more money than someone else can, and you would show at the same time that you are capable of doing that in like this, right? With a snap.
Exactly. I mean, so to be honest, like, I would have done something like that for free for them. Like, just send me a model of a unicorno. I can, reskin it red. I can slap this Turkey, flag star or whatever on it. Like, I would have done it for free. It would have taken me like 20 minutes. And I don't care if Simone Legno gets a cut because it's his IP, but something like that, right? Like, I would have promoted the hell out of it, like, and other people would have as well. That would have been really good free marketing for VeVe because it's a charitable thing. And it's such a, like, I know that, okay, so out of all the things that VeVe doesn't do very well, one of the things they do very well is drops. Like, no one's going to argue against it. They do drops really well, and they can do drops quite quickly. They've proven it already. They did it last year with the Ukraine drop, like 48 hours, bam. They had these flower things. They had the flag, the poster, whatever. Like, that was like, they proved they can do drops within 48 hours. They can have it approved. They can have it created. They can have it advertised and marketed. 48 hours, bam, done. Like, so that's something they are very good at doing, right? Now, they could have like easily done that for this as well, but they never really explain like why they didn't in the end. And if they had done it, that would have been the easiest win for their community sentiment right now. Like, I would say it would have been a really positive thing to talk about. It's something to talk about. It's a cool, new, different thing that they're doing. Firstly, and also there are people who actually like Tokidoki that haven't had any Tokidoki stuff for like over a year. Like, Blockchain Rick, he loves Tokidoki. I love like Tokidoki stuff. Biscuits, like, she's into like Tokidoki. A lot of people have just been like sat there on the platform with nothing really, like who aren't really that interested in a lot of the stuff dropping. Like they would have, happily participated. Like it was like such a good opportunity, like to do something here. But like it's just okay. Even if they chose not to, like take the quick win, it's like just tell us what the outcome was. Like you said, he discussed it. So what did he discuss? Like don't just ignore people that follow up on it.
100% agree with you, and I think that's absolute. I think no one should be angry or about calling stuff like that out. It's just give us an answer or give us the drop, like or the event, right? And
just give an answer or give us a drop, like one of the two. Don't just ignore people after you said it.
Yeah, and don't leave chances on the table that benefit your project. Yeah, but with that said, before we hit the 3-hour mark, I think we should call it a day. Super interesting to have you here. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to all the 60 people on your way out. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Also,
hit that like button.
check out your Hello K YouTube channel and follow him on Twitter. And yeah, I think we will meet again here on this channel soon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And yeah, for everyone in the chat, wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. See you in the next live stream or video.